Chapter 76. The host of the food competition stepped into the center of the venue. Through his introduction, Autumn also recognized the two familiar faces. Menki and byeeeeeee. Menki, the gourmet hunter, is strong-willed and one of the examiners of the second round of the 287th hunter exam. She has extremely high standards for food, especially taste. Judging by her demeanor, her nahh type must be materialization. The gourmet hunter byeeeeeee is honest, greedy, and has a massive appetite. He, too, is one of the second-round examiners of the 287th hunter exam. His nahh ability remains unknown. As the host introduced the contestants, Autumn felt slightly out of place amid the cheering crowd. His eyes never once left Menki. As a gourmet hunter with a hunter's license, she was the first to notice Autumn's gaze. At first, she assumed he was just an interested spectator. But as the intensity of his stare persisted, Menki turned her head to locate him, only to find he had disappeared. "Is it my imagination?" she muttered, perplexed. Shaking her head, she thought, "No, it can't be." Beside her, byeeeeeee also sensed Menki's unease. He scanned the crowd and then asked, "Menki, is something wrong?" I feel like I'm being watched," she replied in a low voice, hiding her concern. At the same time, byeeeeeee became alert and narrowed his eyes, scanning the area. With the competition about to begin, the host raised his microphone. "All right, contestants, get ready. Today's winner will receive this year's grand prize, the blue dolphin." He pulled away a red cloth to reveal a large fish tank on stage. Inside swam a beautiful, cobalt blue porpoise about 70 cm long. The blue dolphin is a C-rank dream ingredient, stunning, but extremely toxic. Just 1 milligram of its toxin can fell an adult elephant. But handled correctly, it's a rare gourmet treasure. As a gourmet hunter, Menki had entered the competition for this very prize. With no further ado, the competition begins, the host announced. Immediately, the contestants sprang into action. Menki focused entirely on the task ahead, her concentration absolute. Byeeeeeee assisted her while discreetly surveying the crowd. Hidden among the audience, Autumn watched Menki prepare the dish. It looked like an artist at work, and Autumn found it deeply mesmerizing. As expected, Menki and byeeeeeee claimed first place. Helping Menki carry the win, byeeeeeee excused them from the stage without stopping for interviews. From a distance, Autumn shadowed them as they walked toward the beach, not hurried, not slow. They continued east from Phuket until they reached the stone forest by the sea. There, byeeeeeee set down the tank with the blue dolphin. Both Menki and byeeeeeee turned and locked eyes on Autumn, who approached calmly. Menki gave a guarded look. "Who are you? Why are you following us?" On the surface neither made a move, but both were ready in case Autumn meant harm. Autumn stepped closer, one foot on a low stone, and spoke quietly, "Please don't misunderstand, I mean no harm. You're Menki and byeeeeeee, right? That's how the host introduced you." He paused, then continued, "I'm Autumn. I'm also a nahh user, though I haven't earned my hunter license yet." He tilted his head slightly. "I'd like to learn about next year's hunter exam from you. Of course, I'd offer compensation." His tone was sincere and non-threatening. Of course, his claim of seeking exam information was a convenient excuse. His real goal was just to meet Menki and byeeeeeee. Menki remained cautious. "What if I refuse?" Autumn smiled. "That's fine, if you'd rather I go elsewhere. Consider me a mild disruption today." "Then you may leave," Menki replied coldly. "Don't you want to hear my offer first?" Autumn pressed. "I'm not interested," Menki repeated firmly. She could sense that Autumn wasn't ordinary, and something about him felt off. "Very well," Autumn said softly. "Then I'll take my leave. I hope we meet again next time." He turned and walked away confidently, without hesitation. Menki and byeeeeeee watched until Autumn's figure vanished among the stones. Booara spoke with a low voice, Menki, I have a feeling we'll run into him again soon. Menki nodded. Let it go. Don't worry about him. Her gaze shifted down to the big tank Booara had placed on the rocks. Her eyes gleamed with obsession. I finally obtained the blue dolphin. One of the dream ingredients. When are we going to eat it? I'm starving, Booara said, rubbing his stomach. He nearly drooled at the sight. Eat? All you care about is eating, Menki snapped, a touch wild in her tone. Such a precious ingredient must be prepared with care. For Menki, becoming a gourmet hunter meant transforming every catch into exquisite dishes. But for Booara, it was far simpler, he just wanted to eat to his heart's content. After all, his appetite was colossal. Hee. Booara touched his head innocently. I am hungry, am I not? Chapter 77. In the blink of an eye, nearly a year had passed since Autumn left Meteor Street. Now, he followed a sightseeing group to the foot of Kukulu Mountain, standing at an altitude of 3,372 m. Most of this land was owned by the Zoldyck family. Autumn hadn't come to join the Zoldycks, he wasn't familiar with them, and trying to intrude would have been seen as a provocation. He didn't want to create trouble for himself. His real purpose here was simply curiosity. While traveling, he'd passed by and decided to view the famous trial gate of Kukulu Mountain, a significant landmark of the Zoldycks. Just as Autumn gazed up at the trial gate, the phone, silent since he acquired it, suddenly rang. He checked the unknown number, pressed answer, and said, Hello, who's this? Hello, are you Mr. Autumn? I'm Blaze Haketon. Do you remember me? The voice was careful, somewhat deferential. Autumn recognized him. Oh, Mr. Blaze. You called. Need my help with something? Autumn replied with calm politeness. Yes. I've run into serious trouble lately. I need your help. Your price? Autumn inquired. If you help me through this, I swear obedience, my whole family and the Haketon gang will work for you. Blaze sounded desperate, on the verge of tears. If he couldn't fix this now, his entire gang would collapse. Autumn smiled inwardly. He'd given out his number as a chess piece to use later. If Blaze was ready to give this much, it was convenient. So, where should I meet you? Thank you. In Ukexin City, Blaze exclaimed. That night, Autumn boarded a flying boat to Ukexin City, wondering what disaster Blaze faced. He suspected a trap, but felt confident he could handle any crisis. 4 days later, Autumn arrived in Ukexin. The annual 10-day dream auction was just 3 days away. Blaze awaited him at the docks alongside a car, no NEN users among his guards, just ordinary men. Strange, since Blaze had the means and knowledge to hire NEN users. Either he couldn't, or they'd been eliminated. Mr. Autumn, thank you for coming. Blaze greeted and led him into the vehicle. Their driver was Terry, the casino manager Autumn had previously met. Once the convoy was en route, Autumn said, Tell me everything. Blaze looked exhausted. 7 days ago, the 10 old men shipped a batch of precious antiques here ahead of the auction. They entrusted me with safekeeping until the auction in 3 days. He paused, sighed. I thought it'd be my chance to gain favor with the 10 old men. I hired a big security detail, including 3 NEN users. But that night, everything was stolen. All 50 guards, including the NEN users, are dead. He swallowed hard. My investigations led nowhere. Even the 3 professional hunters you met. Also killed. Autumn scoffed inwardly. Did the 10 old men know? Blaze shook his head. No. I didn't report it. But if they found out, or we failed to produce the items, they'd kill us. Entire Haketon family gone. The only option now is to find the stolen items in 3 days. And that's why I came to you, Mr. Autumn. Now Autumn had the full picture, Blaze lost priceless auction goods and faces total annihilation if he fails to return them in time. Chapter 78 was an author's knot. So, Chapter 79 - Looking at Blaze in front of him, Autumn asked, "Do you know who did this?" Blaze shook his head and replied, "I don't know." At this moment, Autumn also felt the situation was difficult. It would have been easy if he had a target, but the incident had unfolded over 7 days and he didn't even know the perpetrator. If the other party had already taken the auction items, 3 days wouldn't be enough to retrieve them. However, Mr. Autumn, the eyes of those nahh users I sent out, and who were killed, were gouged out. I don't know if this counts as a clue. Autumn looked at Blaze in surprise. The eyes were dug out? Then he said, "I know. First, take me to see where the auction items are stored." The car drove into the underground parking garage of the Haken Casino. Just as Autumn was about to exit, the whole convoy was ambushed. Da-da-da. 2 hands wielded machine guns. Franklin, one of the Phantom Troop members, appeared in the underground garage and opened fire on Autumn's convoy. A barrage of spiritual bullets emitted from his severed fingers, turning Blaze's normal bodyguards into civs. Seeing the situation turning dire, Autumn grabbed Blaze in the car, then they jumped out and hid in a corner of the underground garage. Boom! The 8 vehicles that had been intact seconds ago exploded. Only Autumn and Blaze survived. Tap, tap, tap. After the explosion, faint footsteps echoed. Autumn, having concealed Blaze, emerged cautiously. What Autumn saw was a tall, slim man with a lip ring on his left lip, a spider tattoo and the number 4 on his right palm, bandaged right hand, long silver gray hair, and dressed in black. The 4th member of the Phantom Troop, Omokage, face shadow. "Omokage, are you the one who stole the auction items?" Autumn called out. "Yes. I'm a god's puppeteer," Omokage replied calmly. At that moment, a figure burst from a hidden corner, wielding an antenna-like device, lunging at Autumn to impale him. A member of the Phantom Troop, the puppet Shanark. But this Shanark, like Franklin, had no eyes. Nahh ability, Soul Puppet. This is Omokage's nahh ability. He can control puppets he crafts. They have no eyes initially. These puppets contain others' memories and limited nahh ability. However, if a puppet closely observes a person, it can steal that person's eyes. Once it does, the puppet becomes a puppet with a soul and much stronger. If the puppet attaches to someone, Omokage can use its abilities through the puppet. Facing the sudden blow from puppet Shanark, Autumn pivoted instantly and severed the puppet's head as it reached him. "Don't bring out this inferior semi-finished product, Omokage." After dispatching the puppet Shanark, Autumn addressed Omokage. Given the plot, the current Omokage had faked his death and left the Phantom Troop. After collecting all the troop members' puppets, he arranged for his decoy to be killed by Hisoka, making Hisoka assume his number and effectively replace him as member number 4. "In that case, I'll show you my real work." Dark aura rippled from Omokage, and 5 puppets with eyes materialized around him. 3 were professional hunters Autumn recalled Blaze had hired about a year ago. After summoning them, Omokage said, "These are the finished puppets I made." Indeed, once the puppets had eyes, they were indistinguishable from their originals, alive in appearance, though still fundamentally puppets. But puppets are always just puppets, Autumn thought. Krlo Lucifer once said you seem to know surprisingly much about our brigade members. Now it appears to be true. Then another puppet emerged from Omokage's shadow, Phantom Troop member number 9 Pakinoda, whom Autumn had killed. "This is one of my favorite finished figures. I wouldn't have completed this Pakinoda puppet without your help," Omokage added with a cruel smile. Seeing the puppet Pakinoda, an idea crossed Autumn's mind. He asked, "Is Hisoka the new number 9 member?" "Yes. It's Hisoka," Omokage confirmed. "Also, Hisaka has informed all brigade members about you. Omokage didn't attack again immediately, he began negotiating. Upon hearing Hisaka had replaced Pakinoda, Autumn understood, it must have been retaliation for Pakinoda's death. And now, after taking the auction items, Omokage hadn't fled, he'd come straight to Autumn. His intent was obvious, he wanted to use Autumn to exit the Phantom Troop. With the current situation, Omokage possessing puppets of all troop members, there was no reason for him to stay. Thinking this through, Autumn suppressed his killing intent, relaxed his stance, and addressed Omokage, "You're still a member of the Phantom Troop, right? Then let's make a deal." Pakinoda's eyes had been taken from her body, likely from a grave, by Omokage. If word of this leaked, other troop members would come after him. Now Autumn had the upper hand. "Interesting. What's your deal?" Omokage asked, curious. "Your real reason for snatching the auction items was to find me," Autumn said. "And why you did it was to use me as your ticket out of the Phantom Troop. I can help with that, but you must return the auction items. Also, if any other brigade members die by my hand, their eyes go to you." He glanced at the puppet Franklin beside them, its empty eye sockets lifeless. Chapter 80-. There was no way out. After his plan was discovered by Autumn, Omokage could only agree to Autumn's request and cooperate. The real body of Omokage never appeared, and the substitute puppet was destroyed by Autumn, leaving behind 5 puppets. The puppet Shanark, along with the puppet Franklin and puppet Pakinoda, were taken away. At the same time, Autumn informed Blaze of the location where Omokage had hidden the stolen auction items and asked him to arrange for their retrieval. 3 days later, news of the death of Omokage, a member of the Phantom Troop and a Class A wanted criminal, spread to the rest of the troop. This added another chapter to the ongoing feud between Autumn and the Phantom Troop. Meanwhile, Krilo Lucifer, who had left the Sky Arena after resting from battle, received the news of Omokage's death. He sat in a dilapidated church, an ancient manuscript in hand, muttering, "Omokage." In Krilo's heart, he suspected Omokage was not truly dead. He knew Omokage's nahh ability and hadn't seen his corpse with his own eyes. After staying in Yorbia City, Ukexen, until the end of the fantasy auction, Autumn signed up for the 286 Hunter examination. Each year's Hunter exam varies depending on the examiners. The only constant is its purpose, to test courage and willpower in the face of danger. Because of this, no one had passed the exam in the last 8 years. Autumn's reason for signing up wasn't just to obtain a hunter license, but also to find Hisaka, whom he had once fought in Meteor City. He knew that unless something unexpected occurred, Hisaka would take the next year's hunter exam, and would be disqualified for injuring the examiner. The new year arrived. "Autumn, are you leaving?" In the forest on Whale Island, Gon asked Autumn with a hint of reluctance. "Yes, the ship is coming." Autumn stood up, dusted himself off, and replied. More than a year had passed since Autumn had first come to Whale Island. His journey had started and ended here. Most importantly, this was the port from which ships departed to transport hunter exam candidates. After registering, examinees were given an address, which they had to reach on their own. Only those who reached it would be qualified to take the exam. The address Autumn received was, Whale Island, Poseidon. That's why Autumn returned to Whale Island, and encountered Gon once more. "Well, I wish you a safe journey. Next year, I'll definitely take the hunter exam and become a hunter." Gon looked at Autumn with determined eyes. Roar. Gon's playmate, the foxbear Jeff, also gave his approval. "Come on, then. Try your best to catch the Swamp King before next year." When Gon learned Autumn was taking the hunter exam, he told him he had an agreement with Mito. If he could fish out the Swamp King, Mito would let him take the exam. "Absolutely. I'll definitely catch the Swamp King." In front of Autumn, Gon patted his chest with confidence. "Okay, I believe you can do it. I'm off." Autumn waved goodbye to Gon. Gon watched Autumn's retreating figure and called out, "Autumn, good luck on the hunter exam. Goodbye." With his back to Gon, Autumn waved, and his figure quickly disappeared into the forest. When Autumn reached the port town on Whale Island, the Poseidon was just about to depart for the hunter exam venue. Autumn was the last to board. After boarding, Autumn walked to the bow and gazed at the endless sea, deep in thought. The bearded captain, patrolling the ship while smoking his favorite cigar, spotted Autumn and paused slightly. If he hadn't seen Autumn with his own eyes, he wouldn't have realized he was even standing there. As an employee of the Hunter Association, Captain Beard was no ordinary man. As the saying goes, the older the ginger, the spicier a perfect fit for someone like Captain Beard. He'd worked for the Hunter Association for years and was also a nen user. Though not particularly strong, on this ship, aside from Autumn, no one could defeat him. The captain approached, and Autumn turned toward him. "What's up, Captain?" Autumn asked. "What's your name?" "Autumn," he replied calmly. "Mind if I ask you a question?" "You're free not to answer." "Go ahead," said Autumn, who knew the hunter exam unofficially began the moment you boarded the ship. This served as a preliminary screening. Each year, countless people signed up for the exam. For example, over 80 had registered just on this ship. "Why do you want to be a hunter?" Autumn looked at the captain. "Is this part of the test, or just a personal question?" "Acute instincts," the captain noted mentally. Then he said, "It's both. With your strength, your chances of passing the exam are over 99.99%, so I'm curious." He took another drag from his cigar. Autumn turned back toward the sea and said, "I don't know. I'm not sure why I want to be a hunter. Maybe it's to find a goal. Something that will end the confusion in my heart." That's right, confusion. More than 2 years had passed since Autumn was reborn into this world. From struggling to survive in Meteor City, to traveling the world after leaving, Autumn had always felt disconnected from this world. Other than a desire to become stronger using his knowledge of the original story, he had no real goal, no spiritual anchor. Everything he'd done up to now was based purely on self-interest. And now, while not the strongest in the world, Autumn was a top-tier fighter. But he remained uncertain about the road ahead. Chapter 81-. Money is readily available to Autumn. He already controls a gang that serves him. While he's not the strongest, his power is more than enough to keep himself safe. Still, Autumn has no clear direction. He doesn't want a life wasted on drunken stupors or idle dreams. He yearns for something meaningful to devote himself to, but lacks both a goal and the starting point. Hearing this, the bearded captain worries Autumn might explode at any moment. Were he ordinary, he'd dismiss Autumn's current existential crisis as mere youthful angst, a danger no higher than C rank. But Autumn possesses extraordinary strength. Without a life goal, how will you find meaning? The bearded captain finally asks, his expression serious. "Autumn, is there anything you actually enjoy doing?" Autumn shakes his head. "Doesn't seem like it." The captain puffs heavily on his cigar, exhales a plume of thick smoke, and says thoughtfully, "Young blood and their worries, they're hard for old dogs like me to understand." "Maybe," Autumn replies with a faint smile. The captain withdraws, recording their conversation and his assessment in the ship's hold, preparing to present it to the review committee. In other words, Autumn has passed the screening and is cleared to take the formal hunter exam. The Poseidon continues its rapid voyage. Suddenly a massive dark cloud looms ahead, dimming the once bright sky. A storm is brewing. "Look ahead," someone murmurs. "It's about to rain." The sailors glance up and, sensing the incoming weather, retreat to the hold, unaware this is a severe storm and part of their test. Only Autumn remains, calm and standing proudly on deck. "Hey, It's going to rain, get back inside. It's dangerous out here. The sailors urge him, but Autumn ignores them. As they step forward to pull him below, the captain appears, puts a hand on their shoulder, and says quietly, "Let him be." The sailor hesitates, but the captain's firm silence stops him. Raindrops begin to fall on Autumn, who finally turns and heads below. At first drizzle, then sheets of rain. The storm hits full force, sea waves swell dangerously, rolling the Poseidon as though it's a leaf on the ocean. Inside the hold, every hunter exam candidate is tossed about, except Autumn, who remains untouched. After more than an hour, the storm subsides and the vessel sails on serenely. When they emerge, only Autumn stands upright. The others are sprawled, some near collapse or unconscious. Of the original 83 on board, only Autumn is deemed fit to continue. The Poseidon finally docks at Port de Rey. The bearded captain tells Autumn to make his way to the highest mountain ahead. After a respectful farewell, Autumn departs alone. Others try to follow him, looking for where the exam is held, but the rough surrounding terrain forces them back. At dusk, Autumn climbs the steep mountain and suddenly encounters a family of 4 Warcraft foxes. "You foxes, the vicious kind," he intones. The fox family, about to dine, freezes at Autumn's voice. Their massive claws poised, they ready to attack, but are halted by Autumn's formidable aura. None dare move. "Do you want to die?" Autumn growls, malice radiating from him. One fox steps back, trembling, collapsing. The aura subsides and Autumn asks, "Who are you?" The fox head straightens. "We're here for this year's hunter exam. Can you guide me to the exam hall?" At those words, the fox family relaxes. Their eyes widen as they exchange glances. "So, you're a candidate?" Autumn nods. "All right," says the fox patriarch. "But it's late now. We can only escort you tomorrow." "Fine," Autumn replies. "As long as we get there." "Would you like to join us for dinner?" the fox offers. He expects a polite refusal, but Autumn agrees. The fox falters. You accepted? Chapter 82-. Warcrafts are a species of magical beasts, and their danger-sensing ability far surpasses that of humans. Earlier, when Autumn unleashed his malicious aura, they genuinely believed death was imminent. This wasn't the first Warcraft Autumn had encountered. Gon's playmate, the fox bear Jeff, was also a magical beast, but it lacked speech and wasn't as intelligent as the ferocious fox family. After an enjoyable dinner for both host and guest, Autumn learned the names of the fox family. The male was named Kleist, the female Melody, their son Prescott, and their daughter Claudia. The next morning, Kleist flew Autumn down from the mountaintop and escorted him to the exam venue using a secret code. The gathering site for the 286th Hunter exam was a sealed stadium behind the city, nestled at the foot of a mountain. Autumn's exam number was 17, one of the earliest to arrive. It wasn't until noon that the one he most wanted to see appeared, Hisoka. "Hey, Autumn, long time no see. This hunter exam hasn't disappointed me. I didn't expect to run into you again." As Autumn looked at him, Hisoka also noticed him and approached slowly, as if greeting an old friend. "Hisoka, restrain your bloodlust. If you don't, I won't hesitate to kill you right here." Autumn spoke calmly. If he didn't have a use for Hisoka, he wouldn't have bothered engaging the lunatic. To Hisoka, Autumn was a worthy opponent, someone who occupied the same space in his mind as Krilo Lucifer, a real challenge. Back in Meteor City, he'd once suffered a loss at Autumn's hands. Had Lucas not appeared, they'd have likely fought to the death. You see, Hisoka is a madman who craves the thrill of combat. Like Krilo, he's a battle-crazed freak, though their obsessions differ. Ah ha ha ha. It'd be great if you could kill me, ha ha ha. Hisoka laughed maniacally, making even nearby candidates visibly uncomfortable. "Hey, your name's Hisoka, right? Don't get so cocky, or I'll shut you up myself. In the next moment, the candidate who dared to speak was instantly killed, his throat slit by a pink playing card. Rotten apples. Too noisy. Hisoka, who killed without a second thought, treated it like breathing. Everyone nearby backed away from him and Autumn. The bloodied card that had killed the man returned to Hisoka's hand via his bungee gum. He licked the blood and grinned at Autumn. Now then, let's finish the fight we never completed. Whoosh. A card infused with Hisoka's nen flew straight at Autumn. Autumn tilted his head to dodge. The card instead sliced off the left hand of a candidate behind him. Ah! The candidate shrieked in pain. Just then, Hisoka materialized at Autumn's right and jabbed a blade hand directly toward Autumn's shoulder. He aimed to rip out Autumn's heart, but sensing no hostility, he shifted the blow. When Hisoka's hand entered Autumn, he realized the target wasn't real, it was an illusion. Let's fight another time. Right now, I just want to earn my hunter license. Autumn's voice came from far behind him. By the time Hisoka saw through the illusion, Autumn had already exited stealth mode and revealed himself. An illusion? Hearing his voice, Hisoka turned and saw Autumn beginning to vanish again. Analyzing Autumn's nen ability, the same mysterious technique from their last encounter, Hisoka narrowed his eyes and assessed it silently. Seeing Hisoka still brimming with excitement, Autumn tossed out a statement. One reason I joined this year's exam was to find you. You're quite hard to locate. Want to hear what I have to say? Hisoka replied with interest, Oh. Let's find a place to talk later. Sensing Autumn's disinterest in battle, Hisoka suppressed his bloodlust, for now. He wasn't afraid of dying, and in fact welcomed the idea of dying in a thrilling fight. But that didn't mean he had a death wish. Given Autumn's eerie nen ability, Hisoka decided to first hear him out, and begin crafting a strategy. The exchange between Hisoka and Autumn, as well as the sudden death and mutilation of candidates, had not gone unnoticed. Compared to the murderous Hisoka, Autumn seemed even more terrifying in their eyes. Though he didn't emit killing intent, something about him screamed danger. So no one dared approach. Even the candidate whose hand had been severed stayed silent, too scared to groan. He merely wrapped his wound in torn fabric and sat, head down, hate smoldering in his eyes. Only at 4 p.m., after yet another candidate entered, did the examiner for the 286th exam walk in through another entrance. Time's up. I'm your examiner for this year's Hunter exam, Kaju. Chapter 83-. This year's Hunter exam hadn't even officially started, but already one candidate had died and another was seriously injured. Yet the examiner, Kaju, merely glanced at Hisoka before continuing, unfazed. From this moment on, registration for the Hunter exam is closed, Kaju announced. Well then, the Hunter exam officially begins. It's confirmed, this exam may result in serious injury or even death. If you still wish to participate, remain here. If you wish to withdraw, return via the elevator you came from. More than 400 candidates stood gathered, each confident in their abilities. How could they back out? Yet one person did. The candidate who had lost a hand earlier struggled to his feet, raised his remaining hand, and said, I quit. He had seen firsthand how brutal the exam could be and knew he no longer stood a chance. Many candidates looked at his retreating back, thinking, one less rival. Once it was clear no one else would leave, Kaju declared, there are 433 participants. The Hunter exam officially begins now. I will now reveal the first task. After I leave, proceed through the door behind me and make your way to the mountain summit. With that, Kaju turned and exited through the rear door, thus commencing the 286th Hunter exam. But no one moved. Uncertain what lay beyond, no one wanted to be the first guinea pig. Except for Autumn, who calmly stepped forward and passed through the door. After some time, With no screams or signs of danger, another brave soul followed. Beyond the door, Autumn stepped into the open world. Before him lay 10 diverging paths, each stretching toward the mountaintop. Candidates had to choose one, though not all would lead to the summit. Some might end in dead ends or worse. Without hesitation, Autumn vanished, choosing the central path. For one of his strength, strategy was secondary, raw power would carry him through. Halfway up, green eyes began to glow in the woods. Beasts. A horde of monsters soon surrounded him. But Autumn paid them no mind. His pace remained unchanged, even as the creatures snarled and pounced. Warcrafts, ferocious rabbits. Standing 2.5 meters tall, they possessed immense leg strength and could launch themselves from high ground. Yet Autumn had no interest in wasting effort. If he wiped them out now, the candidates behind him might find the path easier, too easy. Whoosh! He vanished again, right beneath the beasts' noses. Huh? The confused monsters scanned the area, trying to locate their vanished target. Eventually, Autumn reached a massive chasm, 40 meters deep, no bridge in sight. But that didn't stop him. He stepped off the ledge, and fell. Watching remotely, Kaju assumed Autumn was attempting suicide. Then he saw it. Beneath Autumn, dark matter formed a platform, suspending him midair. Flight? Kaju, surprised, stared intently at the black mass beneath Autumn's feet. A hunter's job often involves death. Most professionals work in teams to balance out personal weaknesses. But candidates like Hisoka and Autumn, so high profile and overwhelming, were impossible to ignore. After crossing the chasm, Autumn reached the summit, where he encountered the examiner for the second test. Oh. Someone already made it. Tons, tons, tons. A wild-looking man, reeking of alcohol and holding a gourd, sat atop a boulder and called out. "Are you the second examiner?" Autumn asked. Tons, tons, tons. The man ignored him at first. After another long drink, he glanced over. Wait for now. Only those who reach the summit before sunset pass the first test and may proceed to the second. Tons, tons, tons. Hearing this, Autumn didn't press. He sat down casually and waited. As a seasoned wine hunter, the wild man sensed something unusual about Autumn. He saw it in his posture, his aura. He recognized a nen user. Before sunset, only 77 of the original 433 candidates made it. The pass rate was below 20%. Finally, Hisoka arrived. Oh? Looks like I'm not too late. Scars and bruises marred his body. His expression was sour, likely due to disappointing encounters along the way. The sun slipped below the horizon. A cold wind swept across the summit. Autumn glanced at Hisoka. "If you're still itching for a fight, don't look at me. Take it to the examiner. I'm not in the mood for you right now." Taking the hint, Hisoka turned toward the wild man, eyes glinting. "Oh. Tons, tons, tons. Congratulations on passing the first test. I'm your examiner for the second, Claude." He chugged more wine from his gourd before introducing himself. As the first to arrive, Autumn had already noticed the strange properties of Claude's gourd. No matter how much he drank, it never emptied. He realized, it wasn't just a container. The gourd was likely a nen ability, a conjured object formed through Claude's power. Chapter 84-. Seeing Hisoka's dangerous expression, Autumn almost thought he'd gone and attacked the examiner over his earlier comment. The second hunter exam begins now. Under the moonlight, the examiner Claude officially announced the start of the next phase. In this forest, there's a flower that only blooms under moonlight. Your task is to collect this flower and bring it to me before sunrise. You may begin. After finishing, Claude lay back on his large rock, looked up at the glowing moon, and began drinking in heavy gulps. The candidates were stunned. Besides knowing that the flower bloomed at night, they knew nothing else, no name, no appearance, no specific bloom time. Worse still, the forest at night was a death trap. Most poisonous insects, fierce beasts, and warcrafts hunted under the cover of darkness. Understanding the task, weaker candidates began forming alliances, hoping collaboration might improve their chances. Autumn and Hisoka exchanged a long look. Then, after most candidates had entered the forest, Autumn vanished. Moments later, Hisoka followed. Feeling both their auras vanish into the forest, Claude turned toward their direction. "He noticed me just now," he murmured, referring to Hisoka. Trailing closely, Hisoka suddenly dropped in front of Autumn, attacking with killing intent. With his nen ability, the forest was Hisoka's ideal battleground. Unable to suppress the thrill any longer, he shook with excitement as Autumn dodged effortlessly. "Come on, let's fight. Something brutal." Hisoka's grin twisted into something nearly deranged. No matter what Autumn wanted to say, Hisoka decided to fight first. Talking could come after. Autumn understood this fight was inevitable. Had it been back in Meteor City, Hisoka might have posed a greater threat. But now, Autumn had outgrown him. "I'm not going to kill you. I'm honestly looking forward to your battle with Krilo." As Autumn stood poised atop a tree trunk, a black modal appeared in his hand. Hisoka's interest spiked at the remark. His eyes gleamed dangerously. "Can you read my mind?" "I'm just deducing based on what I know," Autumn replied flatly. "Your nen ability is nearly useless against mine. You realize that, don't you?" Using the darkness as cover, Hisoka had already rigged the area with traps made from his bungee gum, lying in wait for Autumn. But Autumn wouldn't step into the trap. In an instant, 10 palm-sized circular nen slashes materialized around Autumn. They were prepped specifically to cut Hisoka's nen threads, the connections formed by his bungee gum. From their earlier encounters, Hisoka had learned that the black matter wielded by Autumn could erase nen, and had exercised caution ever since. He also knew Autumn had some form of illusion-based nen ability. He theorized that Autumn could use other people's nen abilities, a frightening prospect. Still, other possibilities couldn't be ruled out. But in any case, this was no opponent to underestimate. With a plan in mind, Hisoka flung 3 playing cards forward. Autumn directed his 10 nen blades at them, slicing them in midair and rendering the attack useless. Before Hisoka could blink, the 10 circular nen slashes surged toward him. But strangely, they weren't aimed at his vital points. Instead, they struck the area around him. Did he notice? Hisoka thought. Around him was a net woven from his bungee gum, designed to ensnare Autumn should he come close. But now, Hisoka was forced to leap back and gain distance. There was no window to get in close. Outside Autumn's view, one of Hisoka's threads was lashed onto his back. Concealed by concealment technique, it would have been hard for anyone to spot. But Autumn wasn't trying to find it, he only needed Hisoka to back off. Though skilled in both offense and defense, Hisoka's nen ability tethered him to close combat. Extended too far, bungee gum would snap. But Autumn thrived at mid to long range. Within 100 meters, he reigned supreme. Hisoka simply couldn't close the gap. Forced 30 meters back, Hisoka found himself stalled. Under normal conditions, he could leap that distance in a flash, but against Autumn, such openings didn't exist. As he observed Autumn flanked by his whirling nen slashes, Hisoka felt he was staring down a porcupine, unapproachable and dangerous. And Autumn wasn't done. 5 additional nen circles rotated tightly around his body, guarding against sneak attacks. This had become the most frustrating battle Hisoka had ever fought. Autumn, calm and unmoving, stood in the shadows. Hisoka, trying to use his bungee gum to maneuver through the treetops, could never breach the 30-meter gap. Wherever he moved, The 10 outer circular nahh followed like loyal sentinels. Chapter 85 To prevent Hisoka from closing the gap, Autumn cut down all trees within a 30-meter radius and dropped them to the ground. Ironically, this became the very opportunity Hisoka had been waiting for. Tick, tick. Hisoka used his bungee gum on 2 fallen trees, one attached to each hand, and hurled them simultaneously at Autumn, who stood as motionless as a stone monument. The twin trees flew toward him at high speed, forcing Autumn to dodge. In that brief moment, Hisoka caught a subtle flaw in Autumn's movement and slipped into his blind spot. A moment later, a full deck of playing cards rained down from above. Swish, swish, swish. In response, the 15 circular nahh orbiting Autumn retracted, forming a defensive barrier that spun rapidly. The deck of cards was shredded by the whirlwind effect, exactly what Hisoka had planned. 5 consecutive, upright cards shot toward Autumn's left side. The orbiting nahh blades collided with the 5 cards, but couldn't immediately cut through them. They were charged with dense nahh, creating a fatal opening in Autumn's defense. Whoosh! Hidden within one of the 5 cards was a concealed trick card, one enhanced with bungee gum. It pierced directly into Autumn's chest. The plan worked, Hisoka smirked. He yanked the thread, trying to pull Autumn into the spinning nahh blades to finish him off, or at the very least, kill him through dismemberment. But his grin didn't last. A black blade suddenly impaled Hisoka through the chest from behind. "Don't move, or I'll really kill you." Autumn's voice came coldly from behind. PFFT. Hisoka coughed up a mouthful of blood as Autumn withdrew his sword and stepped back. He'd noticed Hisoka had no intention of stopping. He was already preparing a counterattack with nahh. Frivolous illusion. As Autumn retreated, Hisoka used a thin layer of illusionary nahh to hide his wound, unaware that Autumn had left something inside him. Hisoka, who had devoted his life to the thrill of battle, now found his fate resting in Autumn's hands. The moment Autumn pierced him, Hisoka realized he'd been targeting a mere construct, dark matter shaped like Autumn. From the moment Hisoka had launched the trees, cut earlier by the circular nahh, he'd stepped into a trap. That was no mistake. Autumn had deliberately left those trees to bait him. When he dodged the incoming trees, Autumn activated illusion stealth. During this technique, Autumn couldn't launch direct attacks, but previously manipulated dark matter, preloaded with commands, wasn't restricted. Back when Hisoka first met Autumn's illusion, it had no visible defensive nahh coating, one of the reasons Hisoka had been deceived. What Hisoka had interacted with was only a decoy. His real opponent had never left the shadows. Aside from a minute piece of dark matter now lodged inside Hisoka, the rest had returned to Autumn. "I left a little gift in your body. Hope you like it." Then Autumn activated his nahh. The dark matter in Hisoka's chest struck near his heart. Pain surged through Hisoka's chest, but he remained composed. Knowing Autumn wouldn't kill him yet, Hisoka asked, "Is this how you steal others' nahh abilities? Or are you trying to control me?" Autumn shook his head. "Neither. I'm just demonstrating." "Now, can we talk?" Relaxing slightly, Hisoka asked, "What do you want?" Autumn responded evenly, "I know you joined the Phantom Troop to fight Krillou. How about this, want to cooperate?" Hisoka smirked. "How?" "I'll arrange a one-on-one stage for you to fight Krillou, and I'll give you intel on all the troop members' abilities." He laid out his terms. Clearly intrigued, Hisoka considered the offer, though he couldn't help but wonder what Autumn's angle was. "There's no benefit for you, is there?" Autumn replied calmly, "Sure there is. Cooperation must be mutual. In return, you'll give me the whereabouts of any troop members acting alone. I'll take them out one by one. I don't enjoy being hunted." Hisoka didn't hesitate. "Deal." Autumn added, "But let go of your nahh threads. If that thing stays inside you, I won't even need to lift a finger." Complying, Hisoka relaxed the bungee gum around his body. Autumn withdrew the dark matter through Hisoka's skin, compressing it into a rice-sized grain before drawing it back into his palm. Hisoka, if you survive your battle with Krollo, let's fight again. Winner lives. Truthfully, Autumn was fascinated, not by bungee gum, but by Hisoka's frivolous illusion. If he could integrate that ability into his own arsenal, it would dramatically enhance his versatility. You think I'll die to Krollo? Hisoka asked. Yes, Autumn answered bluntly. But I'd be disappointed if you did. In truth, Autumn hoped Hisoka would pull through, as he did in the original timeline, and return to being the infamous toilet killer god. I'm leaving. Otherwise, I'll be late. And with that, Autumn vanished. Chapter 86 Autumn didn't know what the flower that bloomed at night was called, nor how to find it, but he knew someone would. Claude didn't set any binding rules. After Autumn teamed up with Hisoka, he immediately intended to eliminate all other candidates in the forest. The exam meant nothing to him now, except earning the final hunter license. After his fight with Hisoka, Autumn blocked the path to the mountain summit, waiting for anyone who'd found the flower. Just after midnight, a candidate hurriedly fled the forest, epiphyllums in his backpack. These were the items required to pass the second hunter exam. The candidate was called Stefan, a plant lover who aimed to become a hunter to collect rare flora and press specimens. He happened to know the exact flower Claude meant, the epiphyllum, which blooms only for 15 minutes under full moonlight. Once plucked in bloom, it stays fresh, but exposed to sunlight, it wilts immediately. Desperate to finish the test quickly, Stefan was ambushed by Autumn, struck in the neck. Pa! Bang! Stefan collapsed, and Autumn confiscated the epiphyllum from his pack. Over an hour later, more than 50 candidates lay unconscious on the mountain trail, and Autumn held over 50 epiphyllum blossoms. It wasn't until the moon began to set that he delivered them to Claude. Originally, 78 candidates had passed round 1. Excluding Autumn and Hisoka, the 50-odd knocked-out candidates would otherwise have passed round 2. Now, they'd have to return next year. Holding one moonflower, Claude, who'd obviously known Autumn was hoarding them, announced. Candidate number 17, you passed. Then Claude asked, can you hand over all remaining epiphyllums? He eyed the blossoms greedily, they'd make excellent wine. Is this the epiphyllum? Autumn asked softly. Claude nodded quickly, yes, give them all. I'll share some fine wine with you. All right. I have no use for them anyway, Autumn replied, surrendering every flower. Claude then stuffed them into his wine gourd. This flower is top tier for brewing wine, he explained. The sole reason Claude served as chief examiner this year was the moonflower, and his goal was now fulfilled. With the second hunter exam cleared, Autumn stepped aside and sat. At the same time, another person hastened up the mountain, clutching 5 epiphyllums. It was Tunpa, the second most frequent applicant in exam history. This year marked his 35th attempt, the next year would be number 36 of his participation. He'd been late because he had to contend with the new candidates. But approaching the summit, he found the cluster of unconscious examinees, victims of Autumn, and felt a terrible premonition. His examiner intuition sparked, if he continued, disaster would follow. So he abandoned the exam and eyed the fallen candidates. It was a prime opportunity for a heist. They'd lost not just qualification but also large sums of money. By dawn, round 2 was officially over. Autumn was the lone qualifier. Ka ka ka. As the sky brightened, the chop of helicopter blades sounded. This aircraft was meant to ferry candidates to the next exam location, but now carried only Autumn. The helicopter landed at the summit, and a young man stepped out. Seeing only Claude and Autumn, he exclaimed, Claude, where is everyone else? Hey, Jeer, you're here, said Claude. He was the only candidate in round 2 this year. He eliminated the others, explained Claude to Jir, who had stepped off the chopper. What? But aren't your test problems simple? Fewer passers means less reward for you. Jir was hinting subtly that Claude would profit from more passers. Don't worry, reassured Claude. I'll report this directly to the president. The remaining exams should be cancelled. Did you bring the snacks on the airship? If you want to drink my wine, you'll need them, Jir teased, proving his familiarity and good rapport with Claude. Roll. Claude barked when Jir requested wine. Caw caw caw. Autumn followed Claude onto the chopper and was guided alongside Jir to the onboard restaurant. Originally, Jir had planned the third hunter exam here, but with only Autumn qualified, his test was void. Though Claude had informed Chairman Netero and formally cancelled the exam, Jir insisted on procedural form. In the restaurant, Jir addressed Autumn. I'm Jir, this year's third exam examiner. Since you're the only one who passed, the final exam will proceed, so be ready. Chapter 87 Claude returned, and after reporting to Netero, came back with Netero's instructions. Congratulations! Since you're the only one who passed the second exam this year, the third and fourth exams have been cancelled. Caw caw caw. Claude sat at the table, said something to Autumn, and resumed drinking. Yeah, Autumn whispered in reply, but he didn't stop eating. The food was excellent. The cancellation of the third and fourth exams was exactly Autumn's expectation. Considering the three main evaluation criteria, physical ability, mental ability, and impression, Autumn saw no need for further tests. Jir also received a call. After hanging up, he approached Autumn and said, "The flying boat will take you to the final exam location. With your ability, getting a hunter license should be easy." A day later, the flying boat landed on a hotel's airfield. Autumn, Jir, and Claude disembarked to see an unkempt old man, Netero, standing before them. "President," they greeted in unison. "Thanks for your work, Jir, Claude." Netero responded calmly, then addressed Autumn. "This is where the final exam will be. This hotel is run by the review committee. You can stay here until it ends. It's been a while since a candidate has been here. I'm looking forward to your performance. I will be your examiner." Autumn looked at Netero and asked, "It's my honor. When does it start?" Young people tend to be impatient, but the questions are ready. "Come in with me." They entered the hotel to find an empty indoor sports hall. Netero pointed, "Here. You'll be competing against two people." Autumn narrowed his eyes. "Who are my opponents?" From the other end of the hall, Jir and Tegari walked in. Tegari, originally scheduled to be the fourth exam examiner, had been injured by Hisaka, leaving scars, and was destined to be beheaded by Hisaka in next year's exam. Netero continued, "Jir and Tegari were the third and fourth exam examiners. Due to your special circumstances, your final exam requires you to win with their cooperation. I will referee and grant you a hunter license based on your performance." Autumn looked at Jir and Tegari and asked Netero, "Is it okay if I kill them?" His tone was emotionless. "Autumn, don't think you can be arrogant just because you're the only one left. I'll show you that not anyone can become a professional hunter." Tegari burst out. Autumn broke in coldly, "President, is that all right?" Netero stroked his beard, replied cynically, "No. There are two special rules for you in this exam. First, you must make them admit defeat on their own. Second, there is a 1-hour time limit." This was a rogue rule designed just for Autumn. Given Tegari's aggression, getting him to concede voluntarily would be nearly impossible. That was Netero's intention. A professional hunter license isn't given easily. No one's earned one 8 years in a row for nothing. Understanding the rules, Autumn strolled onto the field with Tegari and Jir. Despite being outnumbered, Autumn showed no hesitation. "You're 800 years too early to become a hunter," Tegari shouted, unsheathing twin scimitars. In Autumn's eyes, he looked absurd, a clown. Autumn turned to Netero with the question burning in his mind, "President, what happens if I kill them?" Netero responded, "You'll be disqualified from this year's exam." "Good," Autumn answered. "As long as I'm not banned from future exams." It was clear Autumn had decided to kill Tegari. Since Tegari had asked for death, he'd expedite it. "Everything is ready. You may start now." At Netero's signal, Jir, who had said nothing until then, raised his hand, "I forfeit," and promptly exited the venue. Netero's gaze remained steady, observing Autumn, while Tegari turned to Autumn, "If you're afraid, leave it to me." But Jir, already backing away, simply met Autumn's eyes and said nothing more, though internally he thought, "I don't want to be killed here." For Jir, the job was done. A gourmet hunter, he knew he wasn't a fighter, he'd only come because Netero asked him to. As for Tegari, the so-called beast hunter, his hostility was personal. Autumn had wiped out the rest of the candidates in the prior exam, depriving him of entertainment. He needed vengeance. Chapter 88 and 89 was an author's note. So, Chapter 90-. Tegari, standing before Autumn, lunged at him, swinging both swords. But Autumn moved faster, so fast that as they passed, both of Tegari's hands were severed in a single strike. Had Autumn chosen, he could have slain Tegari outright. Tegari, reeling in agony, stared at his fallen limbs, shouting, How? Is this possible?" After just one clash, he was utterly defeated. Autumn turned to Tegari's back and asked coldly, "Are you giving up?" Netero watched quietly, unconcerned. He had predicted Tegari's defeat. He'd arranged for both Jir and Tegari to face Autumn, thinking their combined nen abilities would challenge him. "Impossible. Absolutely impossible," Tegari roared, unable to accept defeat. "Are you admitting defeat?" Autumn asked again. "Don't think I'll admit that, idiot." Before Tegari could finish, Autumn struck, beheading him instantly. The battle, and the final exam, were over. Watching Tegari's corpse, Netero declared, "Final result of the 286 Hunter exam, qualified candidates, 0. Autumn had no intention of mercy. If Tegari refused to submit, he died. Without awaiting Netero's proclamation, Autumn strode away, radiating lethal intent. When passing Jir, a mere glance froze him in terror. "As for next year, President, the result might be the same," Autumn said coldly before departing. "President," Jir stammered, shaken. 2 weeks later, aboard a flying boat from Ukexan City to Badim City, Autumn reviewed intel from Hisako with a sly smile. With his current strength, he had no fear of the Elders' Council or their bounties. His destination, Meteor Street in Padamore City, to reclaim what was his and shake off their pursuit. Just before landing, Autumn received a message. "Spiders weave a web in the city of Baltimore." It could only have been from Hisako, confirming his decision to ally with the spiders was strategic. But the message warned, his return to Meteor Street would not be peaceful. Baltimore was likely to become a battlefield, for him and the spiders would soon clash. Yo hunters. Quick break. I am just here to talk and act like I'm adding stuff for YouTube. I'll get out your way now. Let's keep going. Chapter 91. Not long after the flying boat landed and before Autumn left the airport, he realized someone was watching him. Turning back, Autumn saw who it was, a young girl in her early teens with golden twin ponytails, dressed in a skirt. On the surface, she looked like a cute 12 or 13-year-old. But Autumn knew better. This was Biscuit, a 55-year-old transformation specialist and 2-star hunter. He recognized her instantly, even under the guise of a lolly. She didn't intend to hide. Instead, she stared him down directly. Without hesitating, Autumn strode toward Biscuit. Seeing him approach, Biscuit forced a delicate smile, the kind that made people instinctively want to protect her. But even then, her nahh-enhanced mind was racing, assessing Autumn's intentions. What astonishing perception, she thought. As Autumn came closer, he regarded Biscuit, noting her youthful appearance but refusing to underestimate her. He spoke calmly, "Is there something you wanted to say to me?" He didn't believe this meeting was by chance, so he addressed it directly. The air shifted. Biscuit, or rather, the persona she projected, tilted her head and said with an impish grin, "Handsome guy, wanna date?" Her nahh felt wild, a mischievous aura bubbling through her cute facade. Mentally, she puzzled, he knows me? Autumn's calm directness hinted he recognized her true identity. Autumn replied with a dry tone, "Sorry, no, I'm not interested in women in their 50s. The words hit Biscuit like a slap. Black stress lines jagged across her expression, and fury flared within her. She clenched her fists, silent menace throbbing in her aura. He called me old. Ka ka ka. Her knuckles cracked audibly. Anger boiled over, but she bit back, repeating in her mind, "Lady, Biscuit, control yourself." She hated being reminded of her real age, especially while in lolly form, flirting with handsome men. It stabbed at her pride. Before she could respond, a sharply dressed man in his 30s swept onto the scene. His vulgar confidence preceded him as he bellowed at Autumn, "Hey! How dare you call such a lovely little sister an old woman?" Autumn paused at the accusation as the stranger, who gave off a self-appointed knight in shining armor vibe, straightened up and addressed Biscuit, "Don't worry, little sister. I'm Louis, I'm a good person." He smiled, thrusting out his hand. "Want to try the food at a 5-star hotel? I'm heading to the Carl's Hotel, I'd love to treat you." Autumn merely glanced at Biscuit, then offered a playful grin and walked off without answering. Louis, clearly misreading the situation, reached out toward Biscuit in an attempt to guide her. But Biscuit, who had charmed countless men over her decades of experience, recognized his intention instantly. With unexpected speed, she kicked his hand away, and glared at him furiously. Chapter 92-. For a moment, Louis flew backward, but the kind-hearted Biscuit didn't take his life, she only knocked him out temporarily. However, she also made sure that Louis lost a certain manly function. After teaching Louis a lesson, Biscuit descended quickly. The people around, seeing Louis unconscious at the airport, glanced at each other in confusion, unable to tell what had happened. Meanwhile, Autumn had found a restaurant and ordered lunch as though nothing had happened, completely ignoring Biscuit, who had been trailing behind him. Once the waiter left, Biscuit, now seated across from Autumn, spoke up, "If you have something to say, just say it." But Biscuit followed up with a mischievous smile, "This is our date, right?" "Very nice." Hearing that, Autumn turned away and stopped paying her any mind. Since she clearly didn't intend to be direct, he had no desire to press the matter. Right now, Autumn still had an unresolved problem. While Autumn was having lunch, a long black luxury car cruised through the streets of Yong'an City. "Captain, we found his location. He's at a restaurant on 7th Street. Inside the car, Shanark, typing on his laptop, suddenly looked up and addressed Krilo Lucifer, who was also riding in the vehicle. Krilo gave a slight nod to Shanark, then called forward to Maki, who was behind the wheel. "Maki." "Understood, Captain." Maki, already knowing what Krilo wanted, immediately stepped on the accelerator. The car surged forward, racing toward Autumn's location. Originally, the Phantom Troop had planned to intercept Autumn at the airport as soon as he disembarked. However, an unexpected delay disrupted their schedule, and by the time they arrived, Autumn had already left. To confront Autumn, the Phantom Troop had dispatched more than half of its members for the mission. In addition to Krilo and Maki, the team included 7 members: Shizuku, Nobunaga, Benolanov, Phaeton, Franklin, and Cordopi, all riding together. Krilo had selected these 7 after careful deliberation. Shanark, who had previously fought Autumn, had relayed information about Autumn's nahh ability. To minimize risk, Krilo had brought Maki, whose abilities included healing, Kordopi, responsible for post-battle cleanup, Nobunaga and Bonolanov, melee fighters, Phaeton, a counterattack specialist, Franklin, a long-range attacker, and himself for mid-range support and strategy. To eliminate Autumn, Krilo had prepared thoroughly. He had even acquired a special Nen ability tailored as a trump card specifically to deal with Autumn. Today, Krilo intended to finish this once and for all. Autumn would be given no chance to escape. "I'll definitely kill the bastard who killed Pakinoda and Omokage," Nobunaga said grimly from within the car. Having finished his meal, Autumn set down his utensils and glanced outside at a black car that had just pulled up across the street. As it happened, Nobunaga, Shizuku, and Phaeton stepped out at that very moment, and Autumn saw the scene clearly from the window. Sensing Autumn's gaze, Phaeton looked up, and met eyes with him through the window. "Captain, we found the target. He's already seen us." Phaeton continued to stare at Autumn, his sharp eyes locked on him. Chapter 93-. Following Autumn's gaze, Biscuit Kruger saw Phaeton looking up. Obviously, Bisky, with a frown on her face, recognized the Phantom Troop. "Looking for you?" Bisky asked Autumn in a calm tone. "I killed their accomplices, and they came to seek revenge on me," Autumn responded while still staring at Phaeton. "You can see that they have a strong murderous intent." However, after Bisky finished speaking, she saw Autumn's body disappearing, and everything seemed so silent. Bisky was stunned for a moment, looking at the vanishing Autumn, and cursed in her heart, "Asshole, Autumn." At that moment, Bisky realized she'd inadvertently been drawn into a battle between Autumn and the Phantom Troop. The disappeared Autumn took the elevator directly to the largest room on the top floor of the building, then scattered a ball of dark matter throughout the room. After arranging the battlefield, Autumn waited for the Phantom Troop to arrive. After Phaeton's voice fell, Krilo Lucifer got out of the car. The 7 troop members stood on the ground and looked up at Autumn and Bisky. "Shizuku, Maki, and Shanark, the 3 of you go deal with the woman next to Autumn," Krilo Lucifer said as he looked at Autumn and Bisky. "Captain, can we have a big fight?" Franklin asked, standing behind Krilo Lucifer. "Captain, please give the order." Nobunaga, holding the Bushido sword inserted diagonally at his waist, spoke. Just as Autumn disappeared from everyone's sight, Krilo Lucifer immediately said, "Kill them." As soon as Krilo Lucifer finished speaking, 7 figures flashed and rushed directly into the building. Bisky looked at the Phantom Troop's malicious gaze, glanced at the diners around her, who had no idea this place would soon become a battlefield, and quickly left her seat, fleeing the restaurant. After Krilo Lucifer's order, Shizuku, Maki, and Shanark rushed to the floor where Bisky had been, while Krilo Lucifer took Nobunaga, Phaeton, and Franklin to search the building. When Maki, Shanark, and Shizuku appeared at the entrance of the hotel, they saw an arrow mark left by Bisky on the door. They turned and saw Bisky jumping out the window and escaping. The 3 of them didn't give up and chased after Bisky. In Krilo Lucifer's eyes, Autumn, with Nen swirling around him, was like a guiding light in the darkness. In less than a minute, Krilo Lucifer and the 3 people behind him arrived at the door of the room. Crack! Franklin opened the door, and Nobunaga and Phaeton rushed in directly, followed calmly by Krilo Lucifer with Franklin in tow. "Autumn, are there only 4 of you?" Looking at Nobunaga and Phaeton flanking him, Autumn said calmly. Just as Autumn finished speaking, Franklin, who came in last, gently closed the door. "Elder Siegel asked me to bring you a message. Autumn, death is a relief for those who betray me." These are the exact words of Elder Siegel. "Also, I want to know one thing. Where did you get the information about the members of the brigade?" Krilo Lucifer said to Autumn in a cool, indifferent tone. Autumn only shook his head and said, "That's a secret. I can't tell you." Chapter 94-. At first, Krolo Lucifer had not expected to get any information from Autumn, so he wasn't disappointed. Instead, he looked at Autumn and said again, "The nahh ability you used to kill Pakanoda last time should belong to the materialization or manipulation category, am I right?" After saying this, Krolo Lucifer watched Autumn's every move very seriously. On the surface, Krolo seemed to be applying pressure before the battle. But in reality, Krolo was testing and waiting for Autumn's answer. What Krolo Lucifer was really testing was whether Autumn clearly understood his own nahh ability. Autumn's answer could help him eliminate many suspects. At the same time, Autumn's response could also trigger the restrictions of Krolo's stolen nahh techniques. This was a trap set by Krolo for Autumn. However, Krolo's plan failed. Autumn just looked at Krolo with a faint smile. The only response he got was Autumn's silence. How could Autumn, who already knew the specific effects and limitations of Krolo Lucifer's nahh ability, answer such a sensitive question? Autumn's silence made Krolo's heart sink. Having ruled out the possibility that Autumn had acquired the information through some telepathic nahh effect, the number of people Krolo suspected of leaking information to Autumn had narrowed drastically. Could it be one of them? Krolo thought to himself. At the same time, on the door behind Franklin, a large black embroidery needle was aimed at Franklin's back, ready to launch a sneak attack at any moment. This was part of the dark matter that Autumn had scattered earlier, meant for a surprise assault when the battle began to gain the upper hand. Answer the captain's question properly, or I'll chop you down. Seeing Autumn's continued silence, Nobunaga, standing on Autumn's left, gripped the hilt of his samurai sword and shouted at him. Phaeton, on Autumn's right, drew his umbrella blade and pointed it at Autumn. Just kill him. Through just a few short exchanges, Krolo had already gathered significant information. Although doubts still lingered in his mind, facing the silent Autumn, his thoughts surged, and a book with a bloody handprint appeared in his hands. This was Krolo Lucifer's nahh ability, the ultimate skill of the thief. At the same time, Franklin, Nobunaga, and Phaeton reacted as though they had planned in advance. All three launched attacks on Autumn. Franklin, standing behind Krolo, acted first. He raised his enormous hands and pointed all 10 fingers at Autumn. Nahh ability, double machine gun. This is Franklin's emission type ability, allowing him to fire nahh bullets from his fingers like a machine gun. Nahh is a mysterious power, with limitless possibilities. As the saying goes, the bigger the heart, the stronger the nahh. Just like Franklin, to strengthen the output of his nahh machine guns, he had voluntarily severed all 10 of his fingers. That was both a self-imposed restriction and a conscious choice born of conviction. As Franklin began firing, Nobunaga and Phaeton simultaneously attacked from both sides, their swords flashing toward Autumn's head. Chapter 95-. Facing the joint attack from the three, Autumn, standing still, made no reaction. Instead, under Franklin's nahh bullet assault, he turned into particles of light and vanished from the foresight. Nobunaga and Phaeton weren't surprised by Autumn's disappearance. Instead, they immediately looked around to track Autumn's position. At the same time, Krolo Lucifer used nahh, but still couldn't locate Autumn. That's because Autumn had not only used the nahh ability called Phantom Stealth, but also combined it with the ability of invisibility in the secret room, making even Krolo's nahh technique ineffective in detecting him. Inside the secret room, Autumn was completely invisible. The only way to break Autumn's invisibility was to destroy the secret room environment itself. More importantly, when these two nahh abilities were used in combination, the invisibility from secret room concealment covered the weakness of Phantom Stealth, which would otherwise be exposed by nahh. That's how the current situation came about. When Krolo Lucifer decided to corner and annihilate Autumn, he had already gathered significant intel on Autumn's nahh ability. Although Autumn had never shown Phantom Stealth, which originated from Yone, to the Phantom Troop, he had used it in front of others. Additionally, Krollo was familiar with yone, which allowed him to deduce the nature of the nahh ability. Krollo suspected that Autumn possessed a nahh ability that allowed him to steal or acquire other people's nahh, and he had used it. Of course, it was still just a suspicion, confirmation was needed. That's why Krollo immediately activated nahh upon seeing Autumn disappear into light. At the same time, Franklin, standing near the doorway, was suddenly attacked by Autumn. The embroidery needles formed from dark matter pierced Franklin's back and began drilling into his body. Ah! Franklin, under assault, cried out in pain. He ceased his nahh barrage and turned his head sharply. Franklin's cry caused both Nobunaga and Phaeton to glance over. Krollo Lucifer even asked, "Franklin, are you alright?" "Captain, something's inside me." Franklin replied, eyes wide with pain. After controlling one embroidery needle to burrow into Franklin, the remaining needles shot from the door toward Krollo, Nobunaga, and Phaeton, despite Krollo's active nahh. Although Autumn's attack was close, it failed to injure Krollo, who nimbly evaded it. The same applied to Nobunaga and Phaeton, who were further away. The black embroidery needles were cleanly sliced apart by their blades. But Autumn's dark matter would not relent so easily. After drawing some of Nobunaga and Phaeton's attention, a hovering embroidery needle suddenly darted straight toward Krollo. It was as though Krollo was being surrounded. Krollo Lucifer swiftly and carefully dodged Autumn's attacks while analyzing the weak points of Autumn's ability. In the next moment, Krollo withdrew his nahh, flipping a page in the bandit's secret book in his hand, Chapter 96-. The next moment, Krollo Lucifer suddenly disappeared from his position and reappeared beside Nobunaga. At the same time, Autumn, who had been invisible, revealed himself behind Franklin, pressing a black modal against Franklin's vest. "Don't move, you'll die," Autumn warned Franklin coolly. Meanwhile, the troop members who had been chasing Biscuit Kruger, Shizuku, and Maki were lured by Biscuit into an unmanned city park, and the fight began. By now Biscuit had discarded her little girl facade and transformed into a towering, muscular woman, over 2 meters tall, possibly even 3. She knew she had no chance of surviving a siege by Shanark, Shizuku, and Maki in her child form. Now, in full strength, Biscuit wasn't just visually imposing, she exerted a crushing aura of power. Despite her massive size, her speed hadn't slowed, it had increased. Biscuit charged at Shizuku, swinging a fist as large as a casserole at her head. Against an ordinary nahh user, Biscuit's punch would have been unavoidable, a pure blow of unstoppable force. But this time, Biscuit was targeting Shizuku. Although Shizuku often appeared innocent and suffered from memory loss, her nahh strength was nothing to underestimate. As a key logistics member of the troop, she wasn't the strongest, but still among the top in pure power. Moreover, her combat intuition, essentially instinct, was acute. As Biscuit's fist descended, Shizuku leapt into action, both hands materializing and unleashing her nahh ability, the bulging-eyed fish. Boom! The force of Biscuit's punch hit Shizuku, but her nahh beast took the brunt, cushioning the impact. It was enough to send Shizuku skidding backward. In a one-on-one fight, Biscuit would have seized the chance to press the attack. But Shizuku had reinforcements. To Biscuit's right, 5 razor-sharp, sturdy nahh threads shot out from Maki's right fingertips toward Biscuit. Simultaneously, Shanark rushed in and punched Biscuit in the chest, not to harm her directly, but to drive the hidden antenna in his palm into her body. Today, Biscuit is about 55 years old, battle-hardened and incredibly experienced. Facing a fellow nahh user, she's always on guard. She thought, after showing this much strength, the troop actually dares to engage me in close combat. That's definitely not normal. Chapter 97-. The alert Biscuit Kruger immediately jumped back, dodging Shanark's attack while also gaining some distance from Maki. However, Maki's strike wasn't so easy to evade, her nahh threads continued flying toward Biscuit. At the same time, under Maki's cover, Shanark pressed the attack. The control antenna hidden in Shanark's palm glinted coldly. Shizuku, who had just been knocked back by Biscuit's punch, now charged straight at her, swinging the bulging-eyed fish in her hands. She and Shanark executed a perfect pincer maneuver. After witnessing Biscuit's transformation and strength, the three troop members had silently devised a new plan. Originally meant to combat Autumn, it was now being used against Biscuit. The situation was not in Biscuit's favor. Faced with Shanark's unknown nahh ability, Shizuku's flailing materialized weapon, and their synchronized teamwork, Biscuit thought to herself, I might need to escape. Even novice pro hunters know this, the difference between a solo nahh user and one working in perfect sync with allies is staggering. In teamwork, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2, it equals 3, 4, or even more. More importantly, it brings diversity in combat strategy. And now, Biscuit was surrounded. Though she could defeat each opponent individually with ease, facing all three at once rendered her nearly helpless. Just as Shanark and Shizuku were about to close in, Biscuit, deciding to flee, suddenly released all the nahh from her body in a massive burst. Biscuit's sudden outburst caught Shanark and Shizuku off guard. The overwhelming surge of her aura disrupted their speed and reactions. One misstep could mean disaster. That perfectly described the moment. Even Shizuku's materialized weapon faltered under the pressure. Boom, boom. Biscuit delivered a powerful kick to Shanark's stomach while simultaneously landing a punch on Shizuku. This time, Shizuku failed to block with her bulging-eyed fish and took Biscuit's full strike to the head. Shanark, Shizuku, are you two okay? Maki called out to her comrades, who had been thrown back by Biscuit's counterattack. Her hands didn't stop, however, she kept hurling nahh threads at Biscuit. Cough. Cough. Both Shanark and Shizuku coughed violently as they got up, blood dribbling from the corners of their mouths. Taking Biscuit's hits wasn't easy. Both were now seriously injured. Chapter 98-. After forcing Shanark and Shizuku back, Biscuit crew returned to face Maki's attack. To the three's surprise, Biscuit slammed her fist into the ground, kicking up a thick cloud of dust that obscured the battlefield. It's okay. Be careful, Shanark shouted into the smoke. His goal was to draw Biscuit's attention. Since none of them could see where she had gone, he acted as bait, hoping to lure her into attacking him. But when the smoke cleared, they realized Biscuit had already vanished. She ran, said Shizuku, calmly adjusting her oversized glasses with one hand while holding her bulging-eyed fish in the other. Yeah. Shanark scanned the area warily. Very alert. A strong opponent, added Maki, retracting her nahh threads. The moment she deactivated her nahh ability, the massive net she had secretly woven in the park with her threads vanished too. Although it had seemed that Shanark was the main attacker while Shizuku and Maki supported him, the reality was reversed. Maki had been the key force, and Shanark and Shizuku merely served to cover her actions. Had Biscuit stayed a moment longer, she would have fallen into Maki's trap, a perfect net of nahh threads, from which there was no escape. Biscuit herself had realized this. Her decision to flee wasn't because she doubted her ability to kill Shanark, Shizuku, and Maki, but because she deemed it unnecessary. Those three were Autumn's enemies, not hers. There was no reason for her to risk herself on his behalf. Moreover, even though Biscuit didn't know the three were A-rank wanted criminals and members of the Phantom Troop, she'd seen them with 4 others. If she killed them, she might attract serious trouble. And for a seasoned professional hunter, unnecessary risks are bad business. Frankly, most pro hunters are egoists, and Biscuit was no exception. Her presence here was due to a commission from Netero, nothing more. After leaving the battlefield, Biscuit found a quiet alley and reverted to her usual childlike form. Now leaning against a wall, she pressed her left hand over a wound on her right shoulder. Though blood streamed from it, her expression remained calm. The injury came from Shizuku's nen beast, the bulging-eyed fish, which had bitten her during a clash. The wound continued to bleed because Shizuku's nen still clung to it. Even the blood spurting from it was laced with Shizuku's nen. While Biscuit assumed Autumn would be severely injured, even dead, facing 4 attackers, she didn't realize that Autumn had completely taken control of his battlefield. With Franklin being held hostage, Kurlo Lucifer, Nobunaga, and Phaeton hesitated to act. Franklin stood motionless, fully aware that Autumn wasn't bluffing. "So, you want to keep fighting?" Autumn asked, pushing his blade deeper into Franklin, breaking through his nen defense and piercing his flesh. "Let him go. We're letting you leave, for now," Kurlo said coldly, abandoning the plan to kill Autumn today. As the troop's leader, Kurlo couldn't remain indifferent to Franklin's life, despite his usual cold demeanor. "Captain, don't worry about me, Before Franklin could finish, he screamed. He turned to attack, fully ready to die, obeying Kurlo's order, kill Autumn at all costs. Franklin understood, Autumn was a serious threat to the troop. If their identities and nen abilities were exposed, their criminal life would collapse. But Kurlo's at all costs implied a meaningful sacrifice. And what Franklin did didn't fit that definition. Just as Franklin was about to strike, searing pain tore through his heart. He cried out and froze, his limbs paralyzed. "What did you do to Franklin?" Nobunaga shouted furiously. "Nothing major. Just a control punch. I've temporarily taken over his body," Autumn replied casually, halting the manipulation of the dark matter in Franklin's heart. But the remnants in his limbs continued suppressing him. The paralysis wasn't gone. Franklin had been caught completely off guard. Once Autumn's dark matter entered his body, the outcome was inevitable. Everything was under Autumn's control. He now had the ability to kill Franklin at any moment. "You bastard!" Nobunaga was livid, unable to release his rage. He could only glare at Autumn, his aura flaring with killing intent. But from Autumn's perspective, Nobunaga was nothing more than a leashed guard dog, howling, but unable to bite. "Kurlo, make no mistake. I'm the one in control here," Autumn said coolly. "Unless you want me to kill him." He ignored Nobunaga, eyes fixed firmly on Kurlo. Chapter 99-. Then, Autumn clearly stated his purpose for controlling Franklin. "If you want me to let him go, that's easy. Let's make a deal." With Franklin as his hostage, Autumn seemed completely unafraid. And Kurlo Lucifer knew that Autumn was right, he held the upper hand now. In response to Autumn's proposal, Kurlo asked, "What deal?" Looking at Kurlo, still calm and composed, Autumn smiled. "I'm sure you've gathered more than one nen ability to use against me, right? Well, I need to return to Meteor City. I want you to use the nen abilities you've collected to help me with a small problem." Kurlo's eyes flickered. So, he knows about my nen ability after all. But he also understood, Autumn's so-called small problem was anything but minor. Still, Kurlo had no choice, unless he was willing to abandon Franklin. However, Autumn, who thought he had the upper hand, was blindsided by Kurlo's next words. "Franklin, for the sake of the troop, please die." A flicker of pain crossed Kurlo's calm eyes as he said this. "No problem, Captain," Franklin replied, unflinching. To Kurlo, the troop's survival mattered more than individual lives. He chose to eliminate Autumn, even if it meant sacrificing Franklin, and he didn't hesitate. As Franklin responded, Kurlo flipped to a page in his bandit's secret book. Nobunaga and Phaeton, clearly prepared in advance, launched a simultaneous attack on Autumn. Whoosh! Autumn, briefly caught off guard, watched as Franklin was suddenly teleported away. He instantly understood what nen ability Kurlo had used, instant teleportation, one of Kurlo's previously displayed skills. Kurlo had hoped the sudden shift would catch Autumn off balance. But Autumn remained calm. Even as Nobunaga and Phaeton slashed at him, his smile didn't fade. When their blades passed through his body, Krilo realized the truth. What they saw was another illusion. "That's your answer? Krilo?" Autumn's voice rang out again, from behind the newly relocated Franklin. Franklin's face twisted in agony, body rigid, yet he made no sound. Another illusion? Krilo thought, shaken by the depth of Autumn's nahh. From the moment they entered, Autumn had been manipulating them like a cat playing with mice. With just 2 exchanges and the information he'd observed, Krilo deduced that beyond the 2 revealed abilities, illusions and dark matter, Autumn possessed a third nahh ability. He was certain of it. The illusion must come from Yong'an's telepathic technique, stealth illusion. The black matter control is another. But what's the third? And he doesn't seem to want to kill Franklin. So what is his real goal? In that flash of insight, Krilo mentally dissected Autumn's entire strategy. Once more, Krilo activated instant teleportation, but this time, while shifting Franklin, he also lunged toward Autumn. He closed the bandit's secret, drew a poisoned dagger from his waist, and slashed at Autumn. The battle had begun. This time, Autumn did not dodge. He released his hold on the dark matter inside Franklin and focused entirely on fighting Krilo. Facing Krilo, he couldn't afford to split his attention. Nobunaga and Phaeton were watching for any opening. If Autumn tried to control Franklin again, he might not survive the coordinated assault. Clang! Clang! The dagger in Krilo's hand clashed against Autumn's ink blade. Sparks flew. Their colliding auras released massive waves of nahh, creating gales within the enclosed room. Krilo noted, "Autumn is watching Nobunaga and Phaeton while dueling me. He seems pressured, but defeating him won't be easy. He really is the biggest threat to the troop." With a clear mind, Krilo evaluated Autumn's immense power. If any 1 or 2 troop members faced Autumn alone, they'd be killed without question. Now, in a risky exchange, Krilo spotted a gap in Autumn's rhythm. As his dagger was blocked, he raised his right leg and kicked toward Autumn's side. But Autumn had seen Krilo's opening too, and kicked him in return. Bang! Both blows landed. The 2 fighters were sent flying in opposite directions. Two-handed machine gun. Franklin, now free from Autumn's nahh suppression, unleashed his deadly nahh ability, firing a hail of high-speed nahh bullets from both hands at the retreating Autumn. More importantly, under this cover, Nobunaga and Phaeton attacked again, for the 3rd time. Yet despite the dire situation, Autumn now tapped into his full strength, releasing all the dark matter he had kept dormant since leaving Meteor City. Chapter 100-. A semicircular black shield blocked Autumn, 1 meter in front of him. "Draw your sword and slash." Seeing the shield, Nobunaga activated his nahh ability, Yado. Within 4 meters, nothing escapes his blade. The dark shield under Autumn's control was no exception. It was split by Nobunaga's sword. But as Phaeton, who followed behind, swung at the figure behind the shield, he felt no resistance. Phaeton frowned. Autumn had escaped again. To flush him out, Franklin avoided hitting Phaeton and Nobunaga and launched a wide nahh bullet barrage from his fingers across the room, trying to force Autumn to reveal himself. Meanwhile, Autumn, still invisible, controlled the battlefield. The dark matter that Nobunaga sliced split into 2 swirling rings, which shot toward Nobunaga and Phaeton from both sides, forcing them to defend. Just as they were distracted, a small orb of dark matter, no larger than a baby's fist, appeared to Franklin's right and sped toward his head. This was one of Autumn's finishing techniques, black particles. Just before impact, Krilo Lucifer flipped open his bandit's secret once again and teleported Franklin for the 3rd time. Simultaneously, Krilo flipped to another page. Fish swimming in a secret room. 3 skeletal white fish materialized around him. After their fight, Krilo had realized something: the room was completely sealed. His aura hadn't leaked, confirming it was a closed space. He immediately deduced this might be Autumn's third nahh ability, a fully sealed secret room. Coincidentally, Krollo had once stolen a nahh ability usable only inside sealed rooms, secret room fish. These fish were carnivorous creatures that targeted human flesh with extreme precision. Although Krollo hadn't seen Autumn directly, the fish instantly moved, reacting to his presence. Franklin, left. Krollo shouted a warning. But before Franklin could act, his body was paralyzed again. Autumn had regained control. Autumn emerged behind him with 2 ink blades and sliced off Franklin's arms in a flash. Bang! Franklin hit the floor, bleeding heavily. "This way, you won't be using any nahh abilities," Autumn said, swinging his blade to sever one of the skeletal fish, which caused the others to scatter. Franklin was in critical condition, arms and legs severed, blood pouring from him. His wide, pain-filled eyes stared up from the floor. Nearby, Autumn stood with an ink knife in each hand, the left aimed at Franklin's head, the right held horizontally at Krollo. "Stay still," he warned. Franklin was in shock. Without urgent medical care, he'd die. "Bastard. Touch him, and I'll slice you apart," Nobunaga growled, gripping his katana. Phaeton's aura surged with fury. His murderous glare burned into Autumn. But seeing the skeletal fish hesitate to attack Autumn, both refrained from acting, awaiting Krollo's command. In response, Autumn flicked the tip of his blade past Nobunaga's ear, shattering the window behind him. His face was no longer calm, grim resolve had replaced it. Krollo saw the killing intent in Autumn's eyes, and paused. With the room structure broken, the fish disappeared. Without a sealed environment, Krollo's nahh ability became useless. Autumn had disabled the room intentionally, knowing Krollo had countered his stealth. The secret room fish, which were drawn to human flesh, had exposed Autumn instantly. Realizing this, Autumn broke the seal himself, even if it cost him a vital advantage. The hunter's mind raced. "I can't rely on stealth anymore if he's countering it this easily. Put your nahh away. You can't stop me." "Krollo, can we talk privately?" Autumn asked coldly. "Huh." Krollo sighed, closing the bandit's secret. He knew that he hadn't found Autumn's weakness, and that trying to stop him might cost Franklin his life. "Nobunaga, Phaeton. You two, leave us." "Captain." Nobunaga, katana still drawn, hesitated. But then both he and Phaeton reluctantly dispersed their auras and left. In Phaeton's mind, he longed to unleash Pain Packer, to burn Autumn under the sun's vengeance, but he held back, following orders. First, Autumn began, "I want to trade Franklin for the original owner of Secret Room Fish, the nahh user you stole it from." "Agreed," said Krollo immediately. "Second, from now until I leave Meteor City, the troop is not to enter." "I accept." Outside the door, Nobunaga and Phaeton exchanged frustrated glances, their hatred for Autumn unresolved. But they obeyed the rules, and Krollo. After 2 minutes, Krollo emerged. "Let's go find Maki first. We'll talk after." Hearing that, they understood, Krollo had negotiated successfully, and Maki was needed to reattach Franklin's limbs. Huff. Back in the room, Autumn sighed. "Glad I managed to scare him off." He glanced at the shattered window, then slowly approached. Franklin, unconscious but alive, lay bleeding. He couldn't die, not yet. Maki arrived shortly after receiving Krollo's call. Upon learning she was to heal Franklin, she didn't ask questions. As she entered, Autumn, still facing the window, said, "Hello again, Maki." She nodded. "Can I begin?" "Of course. Please." Autumn never turned around. Soon, Maki reattached Franklin's limbs. Though he remained unconscious, the operation was successful. An hour later, 6 Phantom Troop members gathered in an old complex on Baltimore's outskirts. Krollo had already given the order, find the original user of Secret Room Fish. Seeing him deep in thought, they all knew what he'd say next. At last, Krilo raised his head. Autumn. As long as the troop exists, he stays on our kill list, and Short break again, Hunter. If you've made it this far to the end of the last vid here, you're either enjoying this a lot or just forgot to hit the pause button, lol. Just have some semen made by slime. And let's keep going. Chapter 101. In the old house area on the outskirts of the city, Nobunaga was the first to respond after hearing what Krilo Lucifer said. He responded confidently, "Next time I see him, I will chop him up." And Phaeton responded grimly, "Captain, when are we going to take action next time? Sinners should be purified." Although Krilo Lucifer did not reply directly to their words, he gave the impression of permitting them to act as they pleased. Casting a glance at Nobunaga and Phaeton, he said again, "Now, our goal is to rescue Franklin first." Seeing the others nod in agreement, Krilo Lucifer paused and continued, "Members of the troop, when they come into contact with Autumn in the future, be careful not to let him take away your thoughts." "Captain, what do you mean?" a troop member asked, surprised. Krilo Lucifer, seated in the main chair, nodded and explained, "That's right. From the fight just now, I realized he used at least 3 types of nahh ability. In addition to controlling that black substance, demonstrated during his previous fight with the troop, he also used the circular nahh/, a mind-based nahh beast ability once under Elder Seagull. And he has a power that allows him to become invisible. I suspect it's precisely this invisibility that compensates for the shortcomings of circular nahh/." The troop member fell deep in thought as the others discussed Krilo Lucifer's revelations. Meanwhile, Autumn, who had reached a temporary agreement with Krilo Lucifer, after having Franklin's hands and feet reattached by Maki, took the still unconscious Franklin to a star-rated hotel. Not long after checking in, Autumn was met by Biscuit Kruger, who had come unannounced. "Anything else?" Hearing the doorbell, Autumn opened the door and asked coldly. Biscuit stood there, her eyes wide, the mist around her and her lolly facade making her look pitiful. "Would you like me to come in for a while? At least I just drew some firepower away from you. Just say if you have something to say. You're an old lady in your 50s acting young. I feel sorry for you." Despite the jab, Autumn stepped aside and let Biscuit in. "What did you say?" she growled through gritted teeth, glaring at Autumn. "I said you're an old woman pretending to be a lolly. Go to hell." As soon as Autumn finished speaking, Biscuit's anger erupted and she swung a punch at his back. But Autumn, anticipating this, vanished into a light and slipped away. Biscuit passed through his form and rushed to the center of the room. Autumn reappeared behind the door and closed it nonchalantly. In the room, Biscuit looked at Franklin, unconscious and prostrate on the ground. She turned to Autumn, voice deep, "Who are they?" Autumn had purposely provoked Biscuit, who then used the opening to test him. But seeing Franklin on the ground, her act of anger vanished. In terms of strength, no matter what Autumn used, he captured one opponent despite being surrounded by 4. Biscuit, who had been besieged by 3 people before, knew these opponents were all first-class fighters. And Franklin lying on the ground proved Autumn's capabilities. Autumn shrugged and said casually, "Just a bunch of thieves who want my life." Biscuit seized thieves from his words and guessed Franklin's identity. "Are they the Phantom Troop?" Just from that word, Biscuit immediately recognized Franklin's captors. It shows how infamous the Phantom Troop, an A-class criminal organization, is among professional hunters. "Didn't you guess?" Autumn responded calmly. Biscuit looked at Autumn, an unexplained light in her eyes. As a longtime professional hunter, she'd heard of the troop's reputation but never seen them. Their members include only the top A-class criminals. Based on Autumn's information and the strength she witnessed, Biscuit pieced it together. After confirming Franklin's identity, Biscuit lost interest. She knew Autumn, now in contact with the Phantom Troop, would be in danger. As someone who loves gems and handsome guys, she just wanted to leave quickly and avoid trouble. She pulled a card from her pocket. "The president asked me to give you a gift. I'm here on behalf of the Hunter Association to invite you to join us and become a professional hunter." "Oh. The president is me, right? Is this considered abuse of power for personal gain?" "But I'll refuse," Autumn replied nonchalantly. Having glanced at the professional hunter license in Biscuit's hand, Autumn looked away. "Can you tell me why you refuse? Didn't you take the hunter exam to get it? If you doubt the license's authenticity or think I'm lying, I can contact the president for verification now." Hearing Autumn might turn it down, Biscuit immediately spoke up. She just wanted him to accept the license and leave Patmore. She had a feeling Baltimore would get very lively soon. Chapter 102-. Looking at Autumn, who remained unmoved, Biscuit Kruger explained, "There are so many people vying for a hunter's license, not just via the annual hunter exam. Another route is by invitation, as non-users like you." Autumn, facing Biscuit, replied dryly, "Should I feel honored? I intend to participate in the hunter exam every year going forward and systematically eliminate all other candidates," she continued. "Do you think I should accept this hunter's license?" Autumn's expression was playful, practically an open challenge. "Oh, and let me add one condition, the license must be good for 50 years. That way, I can set a record. I'd be the only person with the most consecutive hunter exams, and ensure no one else passes one in that entire 50-year span." Autumn's tone suggested he might just pull it off. Biscuit knew she wasn't bluffing. Slightly irritated, Biscuit muttered about Netero and the association. As expected, missions involving the president are troublesome. Then she pulled out her phone and called Netero, in Autumn's presence. "President," he refused, she reported as soon as the call connected. "Oh. So it's Biscuit. Why did he refuse?" Netero asked nonchalantly. Then he paused. "Oh, did the mission fail?" "It's fine, I just declined," Biscuit replied. "You can come back too, hee," Netero continued casually. On the other end, he sounded anything but formal. Picture him on the phone, scratching his ear and breaking the association's usual gravitas. "President, what about the gem you promised me?" she asked, sounding disappointed. Netero paused thoughtfully, then the call buzzed off, leaving only the dull tone of rejection. Biscuit, crestfallen, held the phone and murmured, "No. I thought I was special." Autumn, who'd heard the full conversation, said calmly, "Is the show over? If you have nothing else, please leave. I need to rest." Biscuit hung up with a bitter "well, bye. No, never again." Both she and Netero are transformation-style NEN users, and Biscuit's call was a performance aimed at getting Autumn to accept the license. But even after confirming its authenticity, Autumn remained unmoved. "Goodbye. I won't see you off," Autumn said without hesitation. Biscuit walked toward the door, stopped, and asked persistently, "Don't you really want the hunter's license?" She wasn't giving up easily. If Autumn accepted, she'd finally get the gem she coveted, one in a million rare wealth. She'd tried before and failed, but this felt like her best shot. She knew if this door closed now, she'd lose it for good. "My coral heart, you must wait for me," she thought. Just as Biscuit was about to leave, Autumn, who had been silent, called out to her, "Etc." Startled, Biscuit spun around. "Did you change your mind? If you do two things for me, I'll accept your invitation to the Hunter Association." Her heart surged at his words. They were a lifeline, a life-saving message to a drowning soul. She saw the gem's dazzling glow again. "What is it?" she asked, eyes wide but cautious. "It's not a big deal," Autumn said with a slight smile. "I need you to look after two people for now." "Two?" Biscuit echoed, glancing at Franklin. "Yes. One is Franklin, the seventh member of the Phantom Troop. He can release telekinetic nahh energy. Specifically, he fires nahh bullets from his 10 fingers like a machine gun. He pointed at Franklin, unmoving on the ground. I just need you to keep him under supervision for 3 days. Wait for my call after that. Whether he's released or killed depends on whether his leader upholds the agreement. If I say I killed him, you won't have to watch the second person. With that, Autumn locked eyes with Biscuit, waiting for her response. Chapter 103-. Under Autumn's gaze, Biscuit Kruger finally nodded and agreed. Okay, no problem. Leave it to me, I'll take care of it for you. Biscuit Kruger didn't care what Autumn's purpose was, she only knew that she was about to achieve her goal. Then Autumn walked up to Franklin and kicked him in front of Biscuit Kruger. Go on, please close the door. Seeing Autumn had turned around, Biscuit Kruger grabbed Franklin's neck and dragged him away. Time flew, and 3 days passed quickly. Today was the day for Autumn and Krilo Lucifer to exchange hostages. On the rooftop of the big hotel where Autumn and Krilo Lucifer had fought 3 days ago, Krilo Lucifer had been waiting here for a long time. Next to Krilo Lucifer stood a middle-aged man whose hands and feet had been released, but he dared not move. His eyes were full of fear as he looked at Krilo Lucifer. He was the original owner of the fish swimming in the secret room, an executioner who was good at interrogating criminals. Wix Frere. Krilo Lucifer recalled that in the past few days, the troupe had searched for information about Biscuit Kruger's identity through the Hunter website, and he couldn't help but wonder how to deal with Autumn in the future. Because the information about Biscuit Kruger on the Hunter website is S-level, the Hunter license in the hands of the troupe is not enough, which also proves to Krilo Lucifer that Biscuit Kruger's identity was not simple. And her strength demonstrated was not weak. It wasn't that Krilo Lucifer didn't want to give up his enemy, but he just couldn't sleep until Autumn, who held important information about the troupe, was dead. Here I come. In Krilo Lucifer's perception, Autumn's undisguised aura made Krilo Lucifer open his eyes directly. The next second, Autumn appeared in front of Krilo Lucifer and asked, "Is he the one I want?" Krilo Lucifer nodded and asked, "Franklin, where is he?" Meanwhile, Krilo Lucifer, who had not seen Franklin, was thinking, "Is Franklin with his companions? Franklin is safe now. As long as I verify his identity, I will abide by the agreement and release Franklin." Then Autumn looked at Wix Frere beside Krilo Lucifer and said, "Come here." Upon hearing Autumn's words, Wix Frere's first reaction was to look at Krilo Lucifer. Seeing that Krilo Lucifer was indifferent to Autumn's words, he immediately walked slowly towards Autumn. "What's your name?" Looking at Wix Frere, who had already arrived next to him, Autumn asked directly. Wix Frere." Autumn nodded, and at the same time, a black disc made of dark matter appeared under his feet. Chapter 104-. As soon as the deal was done, Autumn left, flying away with Wix right in front of Krilo Lucifer. From the rooftop, Krilo Lucifer, feeling the cold wind, watched Autumn take off, and finally understood how Autumn had escaped before. He really couldn't intercept Autumn, who had the ability to fly. However, just because it didn't exist now, doesn't mean it won't exist later. High above, Wix looked back at Autumn with some fear. He had no idea what fate awaited him. When Autumn descended from the sky, he met Biscuit, saying, "Thank you for your hard work." When Biscuit saw Autumn, he asked, "Is that him?" Biscuit looked at Wix. Autumn nodded, then led Wix into a room that had been prepared in advance. As soon as they entered, Autumn said to Wix, "Discover my true identity. This is a test for you." At that moment, Wix's pupils constricted. He understood his life had been spared. For now. He thought, true identity? Could the person in front of me be a fake? Then Wix asked, "Can I survive?" Autumn replied coolly, "Of course." At that, Wix's eyes brightened. A coward at heart, afraid of death, he would do anything to survive. Smart as he was, he assumed Autumn was testing his nahh ability. Fish swimming in a secret room. With a burst of thought, Wix materialized a pale, bony fish in the room. It's been a while. Now that he'd regained his telepathic nahh ability, Wix was delighted. If Autumn hadn't been right there, he'd have leapt for joy. Ever since he lost his telepathic ability, his life had been completely different. Seeing the fish materialize and sense Autumn's presence, Autumn wondered whether Wix could discover him while he was invisible. Wix remembered he was being tested. After his excitement, he confirmed that this Autumn was indeed a fake. The secret room fish had never been wrong in detecting humans. Then, Wix commanded the fish and launched an attack on Autumn. The illusion Autumn created shattered instantly under the fish's blow, without evasion, and then the fish bit the invisible Autumn with astonishing force. At that moment, Autumn realized why Lucifer had detected him before. It was due to the fish's telepathic nahh ability. Although the secret room fish was swift, it couldn't match Autumn. He cancelled his invisibility, threw 3 quick punches, and blasted the fish away. Okay. The power Autumn displayed when reappearing made Wix too afraid to create anything else. Good, Wix muttered, bowing his head, then called the fish back. Autumn pulled out his phone and called Biscuit. As soon as she picked up, he said, "Okay, release him." He hung up and waited silently. Wix dared not speak. Through the fish's perception, he realized Autumn was as dangerous as Lucifer. He stood quietly, waiting for Autumn to make a move. After a while, Biscuit opened the door and stepped in. "Is it done?" Autumn nodded. "I'll leave him to you. I'll come find you within a month at most." "No problem." Biscuit glanced at Wix as if examining a rare gem. She replied casually, making Wix uneasy. That day, after handing Wix over to Biscuit, Autumn left Padamore City. The Phantom Troop, who had been following Autumn's movements, noticed he was headed for Meteor Street. "Captain, the target is heading to Meteor Street," the informant Knight said over the phone with Lucifer. "I see. Return," Lucifer ordered. With Franklin freed, Lucifer temporarily gave up pursuing Autumn. He wasn't sure what to make of him. At the same time, after witnessing Autumn's strength and the telepathic ability that had revealed his invisibility, Lucifer considered how to defeat such an enemy. Next, Meteor Street will descend into chaos, he thought. Though he'd hoped Autumn would die in Meteor City, Lucifer knew that was unlikely. Since Autumn was returning to Meteor Street, Lucifer assumed he would escape unharmed. How could Autumn, who had betrayed Meteor Street, be unaware of its rules and the authority of the Elders' Council? Passing across the drifting yellow sands, Autumn reached the outskirts of central Meteor City, the place he once called home. Meanwhile, as soon as Autumn was outside, Elder Siegel learned of his return to Meteor Street. Butler Victor delivered the news. "Master Elder, Autumn has returned to Meteor Street." Victor stood respectfully before Siegel, but his words instantly enraged the usually composed Elder, filling him with murderous intent. "Where is he?" Siegel asked with a cruel smile. Victor lowered his gaze. "We haven't traced him yet." "Find him. Evacuate everyone, bring Autumn back to me, alive." Siegel roared in fury. Victor was momentarily taken aback. He'd never seen Siegel so out of control during his years of service. But this reaction only proved how deeply Autumn had angered Siegel. Autumn was the first to betray Siegel since he became an elder of Meteor City, and even the Phantom Troop's pursuit had failed to bring him in. Yet Siegel wasn't furious just because of the betrayal, or because Autumn had taken away his flaming eyes. What stung most was the humiliation before the other Elders' Council members and their silent scorn. With each day without news of Autumn's death, Siegel's rage grew. Now, Autumn had dared to return to Meteor Street, and Siegel thought he was mocking him. His suppressed anger had finally erupted. Chapter 105-. Unlike Siegel's visible fury, Callio, who stood beside him, showed no change in expression, yet a faint haze lingered in his heart. As Siegel's longtime confidant, Kallio already knew that Autumn had acquired Yongen's nahh ability, Phantom Stealth. As for how Autumn obtained Yongen's nahh ability, Kallio had his own suspicions. It was likely tied to his fusion with Autumn's own nahh. And the reason Autumn had returned this time, Kallio felt instinctively, it was most likely because of him. Yes, Elder, Victor's voice snapped Kallio out of his thoughts. After Victor left, Siegel withdrew his murderous aura and said, "Kallio, you were distracted just now." Kallio bowed slightly. "My apologies, Elder. I was just thinking. Autumn's reason for returning to Meteor Street may be me." If Kallio could deduce how Autumn obtained the nahh ability that originally belonged to Yongen, how could Siegel not do the same? Hearing this, Siegel said calmly, "There's one more. Go. Call Celia over." With Siegel's reminder, Kallio remembered that he wasn't the only one here who had fused with Autumn's nahh. "I understand." With that, Kallio walked toward the gate. Meanwhile, forces under Siegel's command moved swiftly throughout the manor, patrolling streets and searching residential buildings. Ordinary residents of central Meteor City could sense the tense atmosphere. Something big was about to happen. Naturally, Siegel's commotion didn't escape the notice of the other three elders, who soon realized the reason behind it. This time, Siegel wasn't operating in secret, he made it known openly. Autumn had returned to Meteor Street. "I see. Then let Siegel handle it." The other three elders, Herbert, Maxwell, and Antonio, Siegel's sworn rival, quickly learned the truth and silently consented to Siegel's actions. To them, Autumn was a traitor. If Siegel hadn't volunteered to take the lead, they might have banded together to eliminate Autumn long ago. The central city was placed under martial law on Siegel's order, but such force, effective against others, was useless against Autumn. With Autumn's absoluteness, they couldn't detect him. Not then, not ever. Soon, Autumn arrived at a familiar sight, the entrance to the same rundown manor. The defenses seemed lax, many guards had been sent away, but beneath the surface, a murderous aura lurked. Through his perception, Autumn sensed the presence of his two fusion targets, both located in Siegel's central residence. Wishing to resolve matters quickly, Autumn slipped past one hidden sentry after another, until he stood directly before the door of the small building, as if it were completely unguarded. "Victor, long time no see." Seeing Victor standing outside the gate, Autumn appeared in a flash, whoosh materializing directly in front of him. "Autumn." Startled by his sudden appearance, Victor tensed when he recognized the face. "That's me. May I ask how Elder Siegel has been lately?" Autumn's tone was calm, even cheerful, as though greeting an old friend. "You don't need to worry about the Elder," Victor retorted. "But you won't be feeling too well yourself in a moment." With that, Victor launched his attack, his body wrapped in an intense nahh aura. It worked. As Victor rushed Autumn, seeing him make no move to dodge, he imagined himself about to dislocate Autumn's right arm, ready to capture him. But just as his hand reached Autumn, he was horrified to realize, his wrists had been caught. Crack. "I've only just returned, Lord Victor. No need to be so enthusiastic." Autumn broke Victor's wrists with ease, speaking lightly. "Ah!" Victor's anguished scream echoed across the manor, completely unrestrained. His nahh flared to its peak in a desperate attempt to fight back, but even with all his strength, he couldn't withstand Autumn. In Autumn's right hand, now free of Victor's wrist, a black dagger about 20 centimeters long appeared, and with one swift slice, it slashed across Victor's neck. He died instantly. The old Autumn wouldn't have been able to kill Victor, even at full power, he would have barely managed to hold his own. But since leaving Meteor Street, Autumn had grown immensely stronger. The key, seizing Yongen's nahh. Now, Autumn was ready to act against Kallio, hoping to enhance himself even further by absorbing his nahh. As for Victor, his death meant nothing to Autumn. He hadn't planned to kill him, but Victor's unwavering loyalty to Seagull made conflict inevitable. In the next life. Don't be born in Meteor Street, Autumn murmured in his heart. Then he pushed open the door and stepped inside. Inside, Seagull sat on the sofa, staring coldly at Celia, who cowered with her head down. Behind him stood Callio. Just as Victor screamed and his nahh burst out at full force, both Seagull and Callio turned toward the door. Then, Victor's presence vanished from their senses. The sound of a corpse hitting the floor confirmed it. Autumn is here. The thought struck both Seagull and Callio simultaneously. They knew instantly. Victor was dead. Chapter 106-. As Seagull and Callio watched, Autumn gently opened the door and walked in with small, relaxed steps. "Elder, long time no see." At that moment, Autumn appeared polite and calm, behaving like a wanderer returning home. "Gah!" Squeak. Under Seagull's sharp gaze, the door behind Autumn closed automatically and gently. It was at that moment that Callio, behind Seagull, launched a surprise attack on Autumn. A beam of purple-blue light flew toward Autumn's head. Bang! Suddenly, a black semicircular shield appeared in front of Autumn. The purple-blue beam collided with the shield, and a bang explosion reverberated. Smoke and dust dissipated, and the shield split vertically in two down the middle, protecting Autumn on both sides. At the same time, Autumn remarked again, "Callio, you are too enthusiastic. By the way, Celia, how are you doing recently?" In response, Callio's eyes were filled with murderous intent. He stared at Autumn as if he were looking at a walking slab of meat, but beneath that, uneasiness flickered in his heart. Hearing Autumn's greeting, Celia turned her head quickly, but didn't respond with Seagull present. Not because she couldn't, but because she didn't dare. Seagull, seated on the sofa, responded on behalf of them, "That's enough, Autumn. I'll give you a chance to explain your purpose. You who betrayed me, I will show you what it means to be unable to die." Facing the imposing Seagull, Autumn still smiled and replied, "It seems the elders don't welcome me back. But don't worry, I'll be leaving soon. I just need to retrieve what belongs to me." After saying that, Autumn turned his gaze to Callio and Celia, continuing, "Before you return my things, Callio and Celia, only one of us will leave alive today. The thoughts that originally belonged to me that have merged into you have the true effect of plundering. Its effect is mutual. If I kill you, I can devour your thoughts and use them as nourishment to become stronger. The same applies in reverse. If you kill me, my thoughts will be devoured by you. To trigger the effect of my nahh ability, the explanation ends here. Next, I will take action." Autumn's calm gaze gave nothing away, his true thoughts were unreadable. But everyone in front of him was definitely shaken by what he'd said. And everything Autumn had just said was a carefully woven lie. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Autumn appeared behind Celia. With a whoosh, the black dagger formed of dark matter pierced Celia's heart. Forehead. The sudden pain made Celia look down at the black blade on her chest with discomfort. She knew she was dying. Before she passed, Celia murmured, "Master Autumn." At this moment, Seagull and Callio stared at Autumn, as if confronting a supreme foe. Two words described what Autumn had just demonstrated: incredible power. Kill him. Yet outwardly, Seagull maintained calm, even as the world collapsed around him, and he issued an order to Callio. Hearing Autumn's claim, Callio's earlier doubts turned to excitement. He believed that killing Autumn and consuming his thoughts would dramatically increase his power. So after Seagull's order, Callio immediately rushed forward, wordless and deadly. Kill, kill, kill. As his body moved, the only thing left in Callio's heart was absolute murderous intent toward Autumn, all other emotions abandoned. Confronting Callio's attack, Autumn did not fully unleash his strength, nor did he retaliate directly. Instead, he swiftly withdrew. Clearly, Autumn's retreat provoked a more aggressive assault from Callio. He appeared next to Celia's body, aiming both palms at Autumn, and launched his nahh ability, the Death Laser Cannon. 2 purple-blue circles of light appeared in Callio's hands, and 2 powerful beams fired toward Autumn. How fast is the speed of light? In an instant, the laser beam shot from Callio's hand toward Autumn. However, Autumn had already discovered the flaw in Callio's nahh ability. The speed of light may be immense, but Callio cannot transform into light. Moreover, 2 circles of light must appear on his hands when he uses this nahh ability. That was why Autumn dodged Callio's attack as expected, rather than using dark matter to form a shield and block it, as he had done just moments ago. Chapter 107 was an author's note. So, Chapter 108-. The next moment, Autumn flashed to Callio's side. Just as he was about to strike, Seagull, who had stood still like an immovable mountain, made his move. Danger! Instantly, Autumn felt a warning in his heart, as if continuing to attack Callio would place him in fatal danger. Out of desperation, Autumn urgently retreated to evade the strike. Brush. Autumn and Seagull brushed past each other. He glanced at the hand that had deftly dodged his hidden, fatal blow, and for the first time, surprise flickered in his otherwise calm eyes. Seeing Autumn retreat, Callio realized he had narrowly escaped death. Seizing the opening exposed by Autumn, he launched a swift counterattack. Go to hell! Callio roared in his heart, but his hands continued their assault. Sharp laser bullets shot at the retreating Autumn. To his credit, Callio had seized a golden opportunity. This time, Autumn had no room to dodge. Boom! Purple-blue light roared continuously in front of Autumn, and dazzling beams lit up the air. What? What is that? At that moment, the nahh guard stationed at the manor stopped, shocked by the explosion within the building and the light flashing through the windows. They didn't dare get closer, not because they didn't want to, but because of the overwhelming evil nahh emanating from the rampaging Callio. It rooted them to the spot. In their eyes, the small building where Seagull lived had become a death trap filled with a choking atmosphere of doom. Yet, the oppressive threat of death came and went just as quickly. In an instant, it vanished without a trace. Because Callio had fallen into Autumn's hands. Inside the building, Autumn had appeared behind Callio without either Callio or Seagull noticing, and stabbed Callio in the left chest with a pitch-black modao. Looking down at the black blade protruding from his chest, Callio whispered in disbelief, "When?" Thanks to his tenacious vitality, Callio did not die immediately. But intense pain flooded his body and made breathing agonizing. "It's over." Standing behind him, Autumn spoke calmly. His words weren't only directed at Callio, but also at Seagull. Focused on Callio during the attack, Seagull suddenly heard Autumn's voice and immediately sensed something was wrong. He quickly stepped back, putting distance between them. As the purple-blue light faded, Seagull realized something: Callio's attack had been utterly ineffective. It hadn't harmed Autumn in the slightest. Autumn had blocked it with his dark matter shield. At the same time, under the cover of the explosion's glow, Autumn had silently appeared behind Callio, a movement Callio could not comprehend. The reason Autumn was able to get behind him was because the house contained a secret room, and all the ventilation ducts had already been sealed by Autumn with dark matter. Under the effects of the nahh ability granted by the invisible man within the secret room, Autumn became virtually undetectable. "Master Elder, I have no intention of becoming your enemy. I only want to reclaim what's mine." "It's over now, isn't it?" Autumn whispered to Seagull, who was now standing by the window. With Seagull's strength, Autumn knew it wouldn't be difficult for him to kill him, even though what Seagull had just displayed made Autumn feel considerable danger. Still, Autumn wasn't overly concerned about falling into Seagull's hands. More importantly, there was only one reason Autumn didn't want to kill Seagull: he didn't want to completely provoke Meteor City. Unless he planned to face all 3 elders at once. Otherwise, if he killed Seagull, the wrath of Meteor City would descend upon him. Standing at the apex of Meteor City's power structure, Autumn knew that, as a traitor to the elders, his life would be anything but peaceful. He would become a man hunted daily. Master Elder. Save me. Save me. Callio's only hope of survival now lay with Seagull. As Seagull's personal guard, Callio had long harbored ambitions of replacing Seagull one day. But that ambition would be buried today. Callio turned toward Seagull, only to see Seagull nod faintly after Autumn finished speaking. Hopeless. Despair. In that instant, Callio's heart was consumed with resentment. He hated Autumn more than Seagull. He knew Seagull was old and wouldn't live long. He'd always believed that once Seagull died, he would become the elder of Meteor City. But now, he was dying, at Autumn's hands. So he hated, and resented, Autumn for appearing in Meteor City, and for not telling him the full truth when he merged nahh abilities with him. Otherwise, how could things have ended like this? Of course, he ignored the fact that just moments earlier, he had been intent on killing Autumn and stealing his nahh. In desperation, people will do anything. Knowing his death was near, Callio made a desperate vow and restriction. After I die, I will become a ghost, kill Autumn, and become the elder of Meteor City. Swearing on his own nahh, with his heart full of obsession, the heart on the right side of Callio's chest began to beat wildly. Bang, bang, bang. The strong heartbeat echoed like a morning bell in the otherwise silent space. It was then that Autumn noticed something. Callio's heart was on the right side, not the left like a normal person. Without hesitation, Autumn twisted the dagger, gripped its hilt tightly, and slashed toward Callio's right chest, cutting through his heart. Callio died instantly. Here's my contact information. I look forward to our next meeting. After killing Callio, Autumn pulled a business card from his pocket, one he had prepared long ago, tossed it to the spot where Seagull had been seated, and spoke lightly. At the same time, he began the process of absorbing the nahh from Callio's body. Chapter 109. At that moment, something strange occurred in the house. A sinister nahh burst out from the corpse of Callio, instantly engulfing the entire space. When Seagull saw that the dead Callio had erupted with such overwhelming nahh, he was immediately startled. This ominous energy carried the unmistakable scent of death. In contrast, Autumn stared at Callio, still impaled by his blade, with surprised eyes. He hadn't known Callio had made a restrictive vow with his nahh before death. Upon witnessing this post-mortem nahh, Autumn's only thought was that a new nahh ability had been born. And it was an offensive one. The nahh animating Callio's corpse was about to attack Autumn, transforming into a laser tinged with a faint blue light. But before it could strike, Autumn unleashed his dark matter plunder. This ominous nahh came swiftly, and disappeared even faster, entirely consumed by Autumn into the dark realm. As a result, Autumn received a gift from the dark world and was cloaked in darkness. Staring at Autumn's silhouette, his face now obscured in shadow, the dangerous aura radiating from his body, Seagull finally accepted the truth of Autumn's nahh ability. He realized he was no match for Autumn at this moment. Even if he sacrificed all his nahh users, the outcome would remain unchanged. It was this clear understanding that caused Seagull's murderous intent toward Autumn to vanish entirely. Trample, trample, trample. Autumn stepped forward, absorbing the remaining nahh from Celia, then gave Seagull a cold glance before vanishing from the house at a speed even Seagull couldn't react to. After Autumn left, Seagull looked at Celia and Callio lying lifeless on the ground. He had already made his decision, to erase Autumn's betrayal of Meteor City and refrain from becoming his enemy. It wasn't that he lacked the courage, but because the business card Autumn left behind was both a negotiation and a threat. Under the warm sun, Autumn had already departed Meteor City. Having reclaimed his nahh ability, he had no intention of staying longer. Upon arriving in Indopal town, Autumn encountered Biscuit, who had been waiting for some time, along with Wicks, trailing behind her. The moment they reunited, Biscuit noticed something different about Autumn. He's gotten stronger again. In her heart, Biscuit silently evaluated Autumn as a dangerous individual. Compared to when they last met, Autumn, now empowered by the nahh he had taken from Callio, was experiencing a surge in strength, something Biscuit, ever perceptive, could immediately detect. "Here, I've completed your request." Biscuit retrieved a hunter license from her pocket and handed it to Autumn. "Thank you very much." Taking the license, Autumn nodded in gratitude and turned toward Wicks. "Mr. Autumn." As Autumn's gaze shifted toward him, Wicks bowed his head nervously. Even from a single glance, he felt as though he were being stared down by death itself. "Welcome to the Hunter Association. If you have time, please visit the headquarters. The chairman is looking forward to meeting you." Biscuit, already focused on the coral heart she was about to acquire, welcomed Autumn into the Hunter Association. "No problem. I'll visit if I get the chance." With a light smile, Autumn replied calmly. "Let's go, bye." Waving to Autumn, Biscuit turned and left without hesitation. "Come on. We should head out too." Hearing Autumn's words, the anxious Wicks raised his head, only to see Autumn's back as he walked away. Though he didn't understand what Autumn saw in him, he knew he had no choice but to follow. As for resisting or attacking Autumn, after what Biscuit had put him through, Wicks had no desire to die at the hands of someone even more dangerous. 7 months passed since his last meeting with Biscuit. Autumn had remained in York New City. As for Wicks, after integrating the stolen dark matter nahh, Autumn released him. Seeking plans for the next phase, Autumn focused on refining his nahh skills and developing new combination techniques. Just 2 days earlier, Autumn discovered that one of his pawns, Sean, stationed far away in the Kokken Empire, had been killed. He began to consider returning to Kokken. But before that, he intended to retrieve the nahh from Wicks. In a mountain village in the southern Republic of Batakia, Autumn sat casually on a rooftop, watching Wicks, who was working in the fields with a young boy. A smile played on Autumn's lips, but no one could guess what he was thinking from his calm expression. This rural life, rising at dawn and resting at dusk, painted a peaceful scene far from the chaos of the world. Though there were whispers here, there was no political scheming. After the boy finished watering the last plot of vegetables, Wicks looked at the sky and called to him, "Noru, let's go home." "Okay, Dad. Carry me." Noru looked up at Wicks, eyes bright. Wicks turned, squatted, and said with a grin, "All right, Dad will carry you." Noru squealed with joy, "That's great, ha ha ha." The fields rang with laughter. When Wicks returned to the house carrying the now tired Noru, he immediately noticed Autumn, seated on the roof. Stunned, Wicks froze, his eyes wide and vacant. "Dad, why aren't we going? I'm hungry. Mom probably made dinner already." Seeing Wicks motionless, Noru pounded in confusion. Snapped from his daze, Wicks realized Autumn had vanished from the roof. Shaking his head, Wicks forced a pale smile and said, "All right, let's go eat." But deep down, Wicks knew, with Autumn's appearance, his life was nearing its end. Chapter 110. As the night deepened, the residents of the mountain village fell into a deep sleep. Wicks gently turned over in bed, placed a long-prepared letter on the table, and gazed at Noru with eyes full of affection. Without a sound, Wicks slipped out of the house. He looked up at the unusually bright moon, then quietly left the village. "I am coming." On a hillside just outside, Wicks confronted Autumn. His expression mixed resentment with icy resolve. Faced with Autumn, who intended to take his life, Wicks mustered courage, but he knew he lacked the strength to win. It wasn't that he hadn't thought of escaping, but he understood that Autumn's nahh ability had a tracking function, so escape was impossible. That was quite a performance. "Noru is suitable. Autumn praised Wix in a calm tone. A flicker of panic appeared in Wix's eyes at Autumn's words. I don't want to die. Can you let me go? Wix looked up with pleading eyes, but Autumn remained silent. The nahh ability Wix possessed, fishhhhing in the secret chamber, was exactly what Autumn had been searching for. How could he go back on his word? I know I'm no match for you, but I truly don't want to. Wix gritted his teeth. As the word want left his lips, he rushed forward with fists raised. Autumn sidestepped, but suddenly a dagger sprang from Wix's sleeve. I did it. Thrilled, Wix prepared to strike Autumn with a dagger laced with lethal poison. One scratch would kill even an elephant within 3 seconds. But he underestimated Autumn's speed. Just as the blade neared Autumn's cheek, Autumn caught Wix's hand. He seized Wix's left arm, then threw him down hard. Bang! Wix lay battered in the dirt, unable even to rise. Your choice is surprising. But understandable. Autumn looked down at Wix with mild interest. Go on. I hope you can keep your promise. Desperate, Wix stared up with lifeless eyes. Since merging with Autumn's nahh ability, Wix knew Autumn's manipulative nature, and that it would take Wix's own will to generate his nahh after death. Autumn didn't crush him, yet. If you no longer care about life or death, I'll go to the Charlena orphanage. There's a child there called Nora. There, he's called Hammer now. Autumn's tone was playful, yet his threat was unmistakable. Orphanages were many, but Charlena was ordinary, yet Wix froze. Autumn knew everything, about his substitution, his hiding place. It's hard to believe that you, a former executioner, care so deeply about your son, and hid it from me. Fear overtook Wix. He hadn't known where he slipped up. Until now. Please. Please let him go. Some paternal instinct surged, giving Wix strength. He grabbed Autumn's foot. You know exactly what I want. Autumn nodded. If you can do it. I can, too. He stepped back. Wix's grip slackened, and lost its hold. Hearing these words, Wix resigned himself. For his son, he would die, and preserve his nahh ability. Though he'd never understood what came after death, he remembered Autumn's words, that one's nahh after death is driven by the strongest will, hatred, attachment, protection, or devotion. It was true for Wix. Now resolute in death, Autumn prepared to act. If he hadn't known Wix's fatal flaw, his love for his son, this plan wouldn't work. It was Autumn's plan for his fourth nahh ability. An hour later, Autumn had buried Wix in the hillside and left the mountain village without a backward glance. And just like that, Autumn absorbed the telepathic nahh ability of Wix, adding to his growing arsenal. He now possessed 4 nahh abilities. With fish swimming in the secret chamber to compensate for invisibility, he could attack unseen, control dark matter, and conceal his mind, layered protection. Leaving the village, Autumn headed straight toward the Kaken Empire. He didn't care who had killed Sean, only who had broken the magnanimous man. With only one fusionist left under his control post Sean's death, and no plans to recruit another, Autumn's strategy was plotted. Could he replenish his strength? Only fate and the aura of a first-tier nahh user could answer that. As the cruise ship docked at Kaken, Autumn gazed at its shores. Soon, he would step onto this land again. Chapter 111. The cruise ship had just docked at the port of the Kaken Empire. Fiat, who had been waiting for a long time, stood rigid near the gangway with a team of escorts. The passengers aboard recognized the logo of the Joshua family, and it was clear they were awaiting someone important. They dared not act rashly or disembark, whispering among themselves, "Is someone from the Joshua family aboard?" While others hesitated, Autumn showed no concern. He saw Fiat, and a faint smile crossed his face. As Autumn descended the gangway, passengers stared, quietly affirming never to cross him. "Mr. Autumn, welcome back to the Kaken Empire. Please, follow me to the car." A banquet has been prepared in your honor. Fiat bowed politely, opening the door of the lead vehicle. Autumn smiled and replied, "Thank you for your efforts, Fiat." "It is my honor, Mr. Autumn. After you." Fiat led Autumn toward the waiting convoy. The black cars departed from the port terminal. Other drivers, seeing the Jiasha emblem, immediately yielded. No one dared block the convoy. "Fiat, this isn't the way to the Jiasha building." Autumn spoke up, noticing the route diverted. "Indeed, Mr. Autumn," Fiat answered calmly. "This road leads to Jiasha Manor. When my master learned of your visit, he insisted you dine at the manor first." Autumn nodded. "Mr. Gabriel is very considerate." The convoy drove through the city, arriving at the grand gates of Jiasha Manor. Autumn noted two observers flanking the road, surveillance, perhaps allies, or foes. He chose not to react, assuming it was part of Gabriel's arrangements. Once through the gates, two men exchanged glances, one sent a brief text. "The target has passed through the city." He pocketed his phone and continued on. Inside the mansion's main hall, Gabriel waited at a rectangular dining table. "Mr. Autumn, long time no see, please have a seat." He gestured to the opposite end. "Likewise, Mr. Gabriel," Autumn replied, taking the seat offered by a maid. "Since I learned you'd be visiting, I arranged this banquet." Gabriel smiled. "Today's chef is a gourmet hunter. I hope you enjoy it." "I didn't expect a gourmet hunter," said Autumn. "Thank you. Then I insist you enjoy every dish." Gabriel signaled, and Fiat nodded and departed to fetch their meal. "Feel free to speak freely after the meal, Mr. Autumn," Gabriel added. Within moments, Fiat returned with a cart laden with steaming dishes. The aroma filled the room. "It smells incredible, worthy of a gourmet hunter," Autumn exclaimed as he lifted the lids. "Please, enjoy." Fiat offered the first retreat to Gabriel as well. The feast passed in fine dining and conversation. When only Autumn and Gabriel remained, Autumn inquired, "Has something been troubling you, Mr. Gabriel?" "Indeed," Gabriel admitted. "And it seems your arrival here is related." "If not for Sean's death, I don't think I would have come to Kakin," Autumn said softly. Gabriel paused, then nodded. "You're right. There is an issue." He leaned forward. "I hope you can help, and I'll reward you generously." Meanwhile, in a side hall within the royal palace of the Kakin Empire, a middle-aged man with two X-shaped scars between his eyebrows and a long black beard sat confidently on a cloud-like divan, his grin wild. If Autumn saw him now, he'd immediately recognize the man as Bayonne Netero, son of the current president of the Hunter Association. Chapter 112. Seeing the sadness on Gabriel's face, Autumn sat forward, ready to listen. "The story begins after you left last time. Once you departed, I had someone covertly investigate your intel. 2 months ago, we received solid confirmation that the king truly planned that expedition. As a result, suppression from the official level followed. Of course, the fact that the Jiasha family maintains a foothold in the Kakin Empire doesn't trouble me." At this, Gabriel paused, his tone suddenly heavy. Autumn considered this deeply. He understood that the Kakin Empire would someday explore the Dark Continent, but only now comprehended how clandestine that plan had been. Even the Shi family had taken over 6 months to confirm it. Then Gabriel continued, "About a month ago, a group suddenly tried to target me. They've cost me dearly. To handle them, I recruited 11 NEN users. But I still don't know who their leader is." At Gabriel's words, Autumn's mind raced. He suspected this group wasn't just royal opposition, perhaps even a collaborator of Huigara, beyond Netero. He had already figured out the mystery of Sean's death. Now his interest pivoted to beyond. A subtle smile curved Autumn's lips, anticipation flickered in his mind. Beyond, here we come, he thought. If he met Beyond face to face, he would seize this opportunity. More than anything, Autumn wanted to test beyond strength, to ensure he could walk the dark continent safely. So, you want me to find these people? Or is there something else you need? Calmly, Gabriel answered, yes, I want their identities. Even better, capture one alive. If one of them were in Gabriel's hands, torture would be the least of their worries. Consider it done, Autumn replied without hesitation. Then I leave it to you. Gabriel raised his wine glass to Autumn and drained it. Autumn mirrored the gesture confidently. Finishing his glass, Autumn said, before I officially begin, one question. An inscrutable smile crossed his face. You tell me, I'm all in. Gabriel lowered his glass, leaning forward. Earlier, on my way here, 2 NEN users monitored me. Are they yours? At Autumn's question, Gabriel's face flickered, replying unneeded. Autumn had his answer. That was the breakthrough he needed. That night, Autumn stayed alone in the top-floor suite of the Royal Hotel, deliberately avoiding Gabriel's accommodations. He watched city lights, waiting for his signal. At 10 p.m., a message arrived. Autumn checked his phone and then vaulted through the window. To most, jumping from over 200 m would be fatal, but wings unfurled from Autumn's back, sprouting into vast black feathers. He soared above the city like a giant bird. Inside a guest room 3 floors below, a young man with a short ponytail clutched a dual-handled game console. He'd been playing intently, until his display lit up with Autumn's icon flying east from the Royal Hotel. Hurriedly, he grabbed his phone, confirmed, target is airborne, with huge black wings on his back, heading east. The listener responded immediately, received. Keep tracking. That young man was the same one who had watched the road earlier, his console channeling his NEN ability. Autumn hovered above Uzo Port Pier on Kakin's eastern coast, observing sailors loading cargo worth 10 billion ringgits, the shipment Gabriel had imported tonight. Given recent attacks and mounting losses, Gabriel expected more action from that group, possibly tonight. To intercept at least one attacker, Gabriel spared no expense. 1 billion guinea lost? Worth it, if the enemy can be captured. Chapter 113. Just when all the goods belonging to the Jiasha family were unloaded from the ship and hadn't yet been transported away, people of various appearances suddenly appeared on a blue container at the dock. Although these 4 individuals looked harmless, Autumn, high in the sky, could tell from their thoughts that they were all first-rate experts. Moreover, Autumn also realized they had been teleported by a psychic user. This confirmed there was a space-type NEN ability among them, and also explained why there were no signs of the stolen goods from the Jiasha family being moved. Now that the target had appeared, Autumn would certainly wait no longer. He swooped down from over 200 meters and attacked directly. Someone. A patrolling guard at the dock spotted the 4 people the moment they appeared. As he shouted, before he could finish his words, a chubby man slapped him on the head. The guard's cry attracted the attention of the surrounding guards, who quickly raised their weapons and fired at the 4 newcomers. Even the sailors carrying cargo grabbed hidden guns and joined in. Da. Kill them, and the Patriarch will reward you handsomely. The leader of the guards shouted while firing. Gunfire erupted across the port, a place already far from peaceful. Amid the hail of bullets, the 4 intruders struck silently at surrounding guards and workers. Their swift, calculated movements clearly showed this was a coordinated assault. Within 3 seconds, these 4 top-tier NEN users had slaughtered hundreds of ordinary people at the port. Bang! At that moment, Autumn, having plunged to the ground, immediately struck the first attacker. The flying kick from above didn't work as Autumn had expected. It was blocked at the last moment by the attacker's hands. Huh? Autumn muttered in surprise as he landed safely. Watching the man he just attacked slide backward over 10 meters, Autumn was puzzled. He hadn't used full strength, The man shouldn't have been able to withstand it without prior knowledge. The only logical explanation was that the man had detected Autumn long ago. But Autumn was sure they hadn't looked up earlier. So how could they have detected him? Unable to make sense of it, Autumn glanced at the bodies of the dead guards around him, cannon fodder abandoned by Gabriel. He had no interest in their lives, but he continued watching the 4 people who had surrounded him. "It looks like you're the only nahh user tonight." At that moment, the tallest and leanest man among the 4 spoke. They hadn't attacked Autumn the instant he landed, they'd paused because something was off. There were no nahh users sent by Gabriel at the scene, only ordinary guards. That differed from previous operations, when there'd usually been 2 or 3 nahh users present. Tonight was different, it almost felt like this cargo was just a diversion. Gabriel hadn't deployed nahh users tonight because he'd given up on these hundreds of guards. His recent losses had made him reluctant to sacrifice any more nahh fighters. After all, this might even affect his position. Now, Gabriel was pinning his hopes on Autumn. Even if Autumn couldn't handle it or even died here, it wouldn't hurt Gabriel's standing. This was the main reason Gabriel had spent a fortune to hire Autumn. He wanted to fully assess Autumn's capabilities. The dead weren't suitable allies, nor were they reliable under pressure. "You seem to have discovered me a long time ago?" Autumn asked the man behind him, without revealing his full confusion. But the man was more explosive than Autumn. As soon as Autumn spoke, the man attacked fiercely without another word. At that signal, the other 3 attackers, including the one Autumn had knocked back, also launched themselves at him. With all 4 closing in, Autumn had nowhere to retreat, he could only fight. He felt the rush of wind from fists at his back, the murderous aura of a sharp sword at his left, violent kicks and evil thoughts from the right, and the man in front with red eyes staring intensely like a charging bull. Still, Autumn remained calm. Though they surrounded him from 4 directions, any strike he launched meant retaliation from the other 3. His head was the logical point of breakthrough. On the surface, Autumn remained still. Secretly, however, he activated phantom stealth and leapt straight upward, over 30 meters into the air. The illusion he left on the ground shattered like a mirage under the 4 attackers. Dark matter scatter bomb. At that moment, Autumn hovered in midair, supported by dark matter, 2 purple-blue halos glowing in his hands. He was using a combination of dark matter and the nahh ability he'd acquired from taking over Callio's mind, the nahh beast ability laser. Dark matter coalesced into sharp, armor-piercing bullets, trailing 3-inch laser beams, erupting continuously from Autumn's hands, both incredibly fast and lethally precise. The 4 attackers realized the figure they'd been attacking was merely an illusion. They froze in shock. It had been the real body just seconds before, so how had it vanished so suddenly? Their combat experience and vigilance saved them. As soon as they realized the deception, they didn't stop. They sprinted forward, each passing the other. They turned their eyes upward, aware Autumn could fly, and feeling his presence in the sky. Bang 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 bang. Dark matter scatter bombs continued to rain down, shattering the hardened port ground. Autumn swung and deflected them in midair, forcing the 4 to dodge desperately. They noted the bullet craters and dared not meet the barrage head-on. Cold sweat formed on their brows and brows furrowed in grim resolution. Their situation was far more dangerous than they'd anticipated. Chapter 114. In terms of tactical choice, Autumn chose the simplest approach to fighting. As long as he remained high in the air, he would be virtually untouchable. However, Autumn also understood that from this altitude, defeating all 4 enemies outright would be difficult. But his primary goal was to test the real combat performance of his new moves. So far, Autumn was quite satisfied with the overall results, though many small refinements were still needed. It wasn't until the 4 attackers were forced into cover by his barrage that Autumn landed back on the ground. Meanwhile, the 4 were strategizing, trying to deduce how to defeat Autumn and what kind of nahh ability he had just demonstrated. They were all certain of one thing: the illusion of Autumn earlier hadn't been a speed mirage, it was definitely the product of a nahh ability. But that raised another question. If Autumn's nahh ability created illusions, then what was the nahh-based projectile he just fired? Unless he has two nahh abilities. By process of elimination, all four reached the same conclusion at nearly the same time. Is it an emission-type ability? Behind cover, the attacker with the sharp samurai sword speculated silently. Based on the powers Autumn had shown, only an emission-type nahh user could potentially manifest both effects they had just witnessed. Had Autumn heard their conversation, he would have given them a thumbs up, because their logic was solid. But they were still wrong. "Aren't you coming out yet?" Autumn asked calmly, standing at ease. The next moment, the four attackers cautiously stepped out from behind their cover. "Acker, leave him to us. Stick to the plan." The man with the samurai sword tightened his grip as he slowly approached Autumn, giving instructions without even looking back. The one called Acker glanced at Autumn deeply, then warned, "Okay, Bolton, be careful. He's not like the trash from earlier." Bolton was the swordsman. He turned to the others and said, "Rory, Kent, get ready." Before he finished speaking, Bolton swung his sword, sending a crescent-shaped blade of energy flying at Autumn. However, this energy slash posed no threat. A dark shield manifested in front of Autumn, absorbing the strike. At the same moment, Autumn, though slightly distracted, noticed that Rory, who had just charged him head-on earlier, and Kent, who had previously used a flying kick, also sprang into action. Cross-screen tactics. Instantly, Autumn grasped the trio's strategy. They were coordinating to create mutual openings for each other. Such tactics require tight synchronization, otherwise, they offer exploitable gaps. But if pulled off properly, the tactical benefits are immense. Where others might panic, Autumn chose composure. In an instant, 3 volleyball-sized dark matter spheres began floating around Autumn's body. The ultimate flying kick. Kent, an enhancer-type nahh user, wrapped his right leg in charged aura and lunged at Autumn from the right. He was sure this time he would land a solid, damaging hit. But battles can turn on the slightest error. Despite his slightly slower move, Autumn reached the crucial moment first. He extended his right hand and caught Kent's leg mid-kick. Rather than being startled, Kent felt elated. He unleashed even more aura, convinced he'd cripple Autumn with this attack. But Autumn calmly replied, "You're thinking too much, and too slow." Dark matter surged along Autumn's arm, forming a massive, claw-like exoskeleton that completely trapped Kent's leg. Though Autumn slid back over a meter from the impact of Kent's aura, he wasn't fazed. Simultaneously, Rory activated his nahh ability. A bull-themed conjured armor appeared over his body. He charged toward Autumn like a battering ram. Moo. Autumn even faintly heard the sound of the nahh beast, a bullhead formed from aura, coming from Rory's gear. Ka-ka-cha. Power exploded from Autumn's body. After absorbing the force of Kent's special move, Autumn instantly crushed Kent's right foot in one brutal motion. What horrified Kent even more was the next moment, the 3 dark matter spheres around Autumn began spinning and slammed into him at terrifying speed. PFF. With a crunch and a violent pull, Kent was sent flying. At the same time, Autumn tore off his trapped right foot completely. Chapter 115. In terms of tactical approach, Autumn chose the most straightforward method of combat. As long as he stayed high in the air, he remained invincible. However, Autumn also understood that from such a height, defeating all 4 opponents outright would be difficult. But that wasn't his main goal, he simply wanted to test the real-world performance of his new moves. At present, Autumn was quite satisfied with the overall results, though there were still many details needing improvement. Only after the four men were forced into cover did Autumn land again. Meanwhile, the four enemies were also analyzing how to take down Autumn and deciphering the nahh ability he had just demonstrated. They were all convinced of one thing: the illusion Autumn left behind earlier wasn't a byproduct of speed, it was clearly the result of a nahh ability. But then a new question arose: if Autumn's nahh ability was to create illusions, then what was the nature of the nahh projectile he had fired earlier? Unless he has two nahh abilities. All four of them reached this same conclusion by process of elimination. Is he an emission type? Behind cover, the attacker with the razor-sharp samurai sword pondered silently. Based on what Autumn had shown, only an emission-type user could exhibit nahh abilities of such range and power. If Autumn had heard their thoughts, he would have given them a thumbs up. Their analysis was quite reasonable. But their reasoning, however sharp, wasn't entirely accurate. "Aren't you coming out yet?" Autumn called out calmly. Moments later, the four emerged cautiously from behind their cover. "Acker, leave him to us." "Stick to the plan," said the man with the samurai sword, gripping the hilt tightly and walking slowly toward Autumn, without even glancing back. The man named Acker gave Autumn a deep look, then responded with caution, "Okay, Bolton, be careful. He's not like that trash from before." Bolton, the swordsman, turned to the other two. "Rory, Kent, get ready." Before he even finished the sentence, Bolton slashed, and a crescent-shaped blade of energy shot toward Autumn. But this kind of energy slash couldn't threaten Autumn. A dark shield appeared before him, neutralizing the crescent slash with ease. Simultaneously, Autumn, despite being momentarily distracted, noticed that Rory, who had attacked head-on before, and Kent, who had launched a flying kick earlier, moved in unison. Cross-screen tactics. Instantly, Autumn recognized the plan. The three attackers were moving to cover one another and open up a chance for a fatal blow. Such a strategy, while powerful, required precise coordination. Otherwise, it could open up exploitable weaknesses. But if executed well, it would be a massive advantage. Many fighters might have panicked. But Autumn stood his ground. In a flash, 3 volleyball-sized dark matter spheres floated into place around his body. The ultimate flying kick. Kent, an enhancer-type nahh user, was the first to charge from Autumn's right. His right leg was enveloped in dense aura, his special move fully activated, ready to deliver a devastating blow. He was almost successful. But in battle, a fraction of a second's error can decide everything. Although Kent acted first, Autumn moved faster. He stretched out his right hand and caught Kent's leg mid-kick. Instead of alarm, Kent felt joy. He pushed even more nahh into his leg. He was sure that Autumn would be either crippled or killed from the force. But Autumn sneered, "You're thinking too much, and far too slowly." Dark matter enveloped Autumn's arm, morphing into a massive exoskeletal black claw that clamped down on Kent's leg with brute force. Though the impact pushed Autumn back more than a meter, he was unfazed. At the same time, Rory activated his nahh ability. A conjured bull helmet and armored gear appeared on his body, and he charged again. Moo. Faintly, Autumn heard the sound of a bull, emanating from the nahh beast formed on Rory's body. Ka-ka-cha. Nahh surged violently from Autumn's body. Absorbing the force of Kent's ultimate move, he shattered Kent's right foot in one crushing squeeze. Even more terrifying for Kent, the 3 spinning dark matter orbs around Autumn suddenly accelerated and slammed into him. PFF. With a violent smash and a ripping sound, Kent was flung away, his right foot torn clean off by Autumn's crushing grip. Chapter 116 was an author's note. So, Chapter 117 - The gushing blood sprayed through the air, dotting the dark night like red specks on a black canvas. Although Autumn had effectively taken Kent out of the fight, he had no way to avoid Rory's bull charge at that moment. Boom! Rory's hands, like massive bull horns, rammed into Autumn's chest, launching him through the air. Before Autumn could hit the ground, Bolton, who had previously released the circular nahh, suddenly appeared behind him. He leapt upward, drawing the samurai sword slung diagonally at his waist. Cut it in two with one blow, draw and slash. In this moment, Bolton's fighting spirit reached its peak. As he unleashed his ultimate move, his heart, mind, and technique became one. This was an attack he was willing to sacrifice everything for. As a nahh user, he forsook all long-range capabilities for this one swing. In exchange for immense power, he would be unable to use nahh and left extremely weakened for an entire day after executing the slash. He was fully confident that Autumn would die from this single strike. Clang! The sword was halfway out of its sheath. A cold, razor-thin light flickered, the only thing left in the world in that instant. What? But horror filled Bolton's eyes. His hand, at that moment, felt like it was being crushed by 1,000 tons. He couldn't draw the blade fully. Face to face with Autumn, so close he could see his eyes, Bolton froze in terror. His ultimate move, shattered. Die. In his heart, Autumn declared Bolton's fate with a single word. Bang! A dark matter sphere hovering beside Autumn slammed into Bolton's head like a sledgehammer smashing a watermelon. The nahh enveloping Autumn rippled but didn't carry a single drop of blood. With his right hand gripping Bolton's sword arm, Autumn gently descended, lifting Bolton's lifeless body with ease. One of the assailants who had long troubled Gabriel was finally dead. To Autumn, Bolton's strike had been powerful, dangerously so. But he had seen through its fatal flaw. Among the advanced techniques of nahh, Ken and especially Ko were fundamental. Bolton, focused solely on maximum attack power, had left his body unprotected. If Autumn countered before the sword was fully drawn, the move could be nullified. Exactly what happened. Bolton, misled into thinking Autumn was helpless after being launched by Rory, believed he was about to deliver a killing blow. But this had all been Autumn's trap. With his current strength, Autumn could have easily blocked Rory without budging an inch. Neither Rory's aura nor physical strength could affect him at all. He'd never lost control in the air, he had turned midair, caught Bolton's right hand, and crushed both his technique and his body in an instant. Bolton. Looking at Bolton's lifeless corpse, both Rory and the injured Kent, who was still on the ground, screamed in horror. From a distance, Acker watched the chaos unfold. Silently, he made up his mind to betray his teammates. As the saying goes, I'd rather live alone than die with my friends. A drop of dark liquid dripped from Acker's fingertip. When it hit the ground, a black portal bloomed open. Nahh ability, Warped Realm Transmission Channel. As long as he had established a pair of entry and exit points within 100 kilometers in advance, he could instantly open another connected portal at will. The goods belonging to the Jiasha family, and Acker, were immediately swallowed by the portal. After slicing Rory down with a single blow, Autumn looked over and saw Acker, or rather what was left of him. Only half his head remained visible as he vanished. He knew he was too late to stop it. We'll meet again. With those words, Autumn watched as Acker and the cargo disappeared completely, as if they had never existed. Bang! To prevent further surprises, Autumn called Gabriel only after knocking Kent unconscious. Though the mission wasn't flawless, it was, in the end, completed. And that's a wrap, hunters. Another Hunter x Hunter fanfic done. Again. It is a sudden end. But it's dropped. I kinda wanted more lol. Like usual, show the author some love. Their info is below. If you're new here and vibing with the channel, like, drop a comment, even if it's just screaming Killua supremacy as any normal person should, and hit subscribe to officially join the cult, community. Yay. The Hunter community, eyes emoji. Your support helps a lot. Just you watching and liking the video, comments, it helps keep me motivated too. So yay. Also keep an eye on the community posts. We aren't bots and actually post cool stuff there daily. But don't quote me on that. If Terry's nothing there for a day, or a few days, I choose to dodge all responsibility. That's it for now. Peace. And love y'all. Headphone emoji, red heart emoji.